Wait a minute, Adam. You haven't seen Legend?
Conan, what is best in life?
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
Let's remedy that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Raised by Spoilers. I'm one of your hosts, Geek Movie House. Surrounding me tonight is the round table of villains themselves. I am joined with the feminist warlord, everybody's goth mom, you love her, I love her, Nintendo geek.
Are you ready to join the church of pump? Are you ready to feel the coming?
This is the second time we've done this, and it still hits twice as hard.
It's still funny.
It's still really fucking funny.
I won't ever stop.
The other side of the table, the other side of the screen, the man 2 steps ahead of you, the deadliest demon himself.
Plebeian Adam.
Plebeian Adam. Conan the Barbarian. 1982. Before we get into the movie, I want to talk about Conan. I want to talk about the author. I want to talk about the art. I want to talk about the inspiration. We're not even going to get to the movie, at least till 20 minutes in.
Okay.
Robert E. Howard, pulp author of Conan, created it in his 20s in Texas. Roughly 1930 is when it was published. It was very old. He's considered the godfather of sorcery, or sword and sorcery, and this predates Lord of the Rings publishment.
No,
Hobbit
really?
came out, Hobbit came out, I want to say, in 27.
Okay.
The Hobbit?
Yeah.
Hobbit, I thought it came out in like 1954.
54?
Yeah, Hobbit was the last one he wrote.
Well, he didn't publish... We're going to do a real quick
we're doing
check.
some fact checks.
I think The Hobbit was published in the 50s.
Well, let's see.
Publication 54.
54.
Told
Ladies and
ya.
gentlemen, The Hobbit.
Don't come at me with Lord of the Rings.
Publication date 37.
Oh, okay. So it didn't come out until... Okay. Well, I had...
Immediate backtrack.
No, but I had
Conan
54
the
right.
Barbarian.
I had 54 right.
Robert E. Howard.
1932.
32.
Okay.
So predated.
Oh, he was in Weird Tales originally.
Published with H.P. Lovecraft, actually.
Yeah,
We're going to get into that real quick.
Okay.
So, Howard wrote a bunch of stories in his youth. Robert E. Howard himself, the man, relatively interesting. He was into bodybuilding, and he was an amateur boxer.
Oh, okay.
Possibly a closeted homosexual, but we'll get into that a little bit later in life.
Wasn't everyone
A little
in the-
bit,
in the
right? A
30s?
little bit. Robert E. Howard, amazing individual. Also, when he first published, he didn't actually publish all of Conan. He just made his mark within Weird Tales. Everybody hated it.
Really?
It wasn't collected until later. He wrote some very interesting letters to Lovecraft for one of his stories, complimenting Lovecraft on his work with Latin in one of his stories, and Lovecraft hit it off with him within correspondence back and forth.
Oh, interesting.
So then Lovecraft himself invited Howard into what would be known as the Lovecraft Circle within the writing period in the 30s, which was almost the epitome of like an Andy Warhol of the artists in the same circle.
Okay.
In which case...
Trying really hard not to bash racism on this one right now.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, fucking let's be real with you, everybody real quick. Lovecraft was a total piece of shit.
Yeah.
Incredibly racist and just awful. But the difference is, though, is he was a piece of shit, but he surrounded himself with some weirdos of the time.
Okay.
let me just bring up Weird Tales themselves.
Weird Tales was like a magazine, wasn't it?
Was a pulp magazine / pulp. Yeah, it was
With
it was like
stories.
It wasn't necessarily a newspaper, and think of Archie's comics.
Yeah,
that kind of size, right?
But it was before comics, and it was little novels rather than comics because they didn't really have artistry in them. Well, they had few art pieces here.
What do you got, Feminist?
What do you got?
Those look like the wedding invites we just ordered.
They do look like the wedding invites we just ordered.
Oh,
It says weird weddings on it.
Oh,
So
it's so nice.
I just maybe that's where they got the inspo from.
So
Interesting.
Okay, so he was an amateur boxer. Hang on as I stumble through my words here real quick. I'm so sorry, everybody. He ended up committing suicide at the age of 30.
Oh.
Robert?
Yep, Robert E. Howard.
Oh.
And his works then were later published as collections.
Isn't that what happened to Lovecraft too?
I don't believe so. I think Lovecraft actually went mad.
Okay, all right.
He got absorbed by his own story.
Yeah.
I thought he committed suicide too. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Howard himself wrote tons and tons of books, tons of characters, Conan the Barbarian being one of them, Solomon Kane being another one.
Okay.
Existing within the Conan universe, just later within the timeline.
Yep.
And then Krull the Conqueror, an exile of Atlantis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they did talk about how Atlantis did exist in that world.
Atlantis, much like the Michael Moorcock storylines, is where magic comes from.
Oh.
So there is a race of humans or people that use magic and high-level magic into the point where they doom themselves and then escape. And whoever remains or whoever could escape to Chimera or the Chimerian era took what they had, and that's essentially why they couldn't like forge steel and stuff, because they were so beyond it. They lost those secrets. So magicians and wizards and sorcerers escape Atlantis, the doomed city, on whatever ships they can, sail over to the world and unleash the classic sword and sorcery of hell.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's pretty wild.
So in 1966, Del Camp made a deal with Lancer Books to republish the Conan series, in which first Howard boomed. At first it boomed. The plan was that they would use Frank Frazetta's art prints and paintings to recover the books and edit and bring it up to a little bit of the modern era.
So did they, let's see if I can word this correctly. Did Frank Frazetta, he was hired to do the artwork for it?
No, he had done these paintings his own.
Okay. All right. That's what I was
So
trying to figure
Frazetta
out.
had done these paintings his own. They had then purchased the
he,
rights.
he read the tales and stuff like that. When I'm going to paint the shit out of
Right,
this.
because it's...
I'm going to fanfic the shit out of this.
Right. And then from that point on, in the 70s, Conan sales skyrocketed. So he wasn't really popular until the 70s.
Oh.
Or like late 60s,
so
70s.
40 years after his death.
Yeah.
He really, wow.
That's too bad.
He sold...
Well, hopefully his kids or family kind of seen what he became.
Yeah.
I mean, Christ, Weird Tales is 99 years old.
Wow.
I know. There's a wild history with even
Wow.
that. So that being said, Frazetta does the covers. Everyone is inspired. Conan is regarded as trash writing. It's terrible. It's pulp.
Okay.
No one really enjoy it. People don't really enjoy it, but it seems juvenile. It's the same thing with Lovecraft.
I can see why it's considered juvenile.
Moving into the boom of the 70s and sliding past Frank Frazetta's artwork, which I think you've got the photos up right now.
Yeah.
You can't think Conan the Barbarian without Frank Frazetta.
Mm-hmm.
No,
His
you
art
really
style is
can't.
insane.
It's so unique. Like, it's Frank Frazetta. Everyone knows what a Frank Frazetta is.
It is the epitome of fantasy
Yeah.
when it comes to just that era of paintings and for the amount of inspiration it's taken.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm sorry we're quiet. We're all just like
We're all
looking
just
at art
oogling
for
like
a
we
minute
can't
for a
take
minute.
it.
We all just went,
Google Frank
shit.
Frazetta artwork and you'll be ogled at it the same as we are right now.
The best year that we had.
Or just look at our YouTube.
We get themed calendars. Like every other year, we each pick a calendar for our kitchen. And the one year we did the Frazetta calendar. Like it was unofficial, off of Amazon, and it was like the best because it's like, what is next? Like,
That
what
is
do we get
really
to look
cool.
at for the next month?
Yeah.
It was really cool.
That is wild. I mean, I do notice he's got a love for orange.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very warm tone.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the idea of like the sky reflecting the amount of blood instead of the ocean and stuff. or
maybe.
it's like the fire and everything.
Maybe.
But
This reminds me, I wonder if they got Rhapsody of Fire got him to do art or got some artwork or done in his style. Because this
Possibly.
reminds me of the Rhapsody of Fire album covers.
very cool. We'll look that up in a minute. So after the book skyrocketed, the rights technically bounced around Hollywood and were acquired, I want to say for $12 million. And then at that point, they couldn't get the movie made. Arnold Schwarzenegger was approached for the role. And they said, we want you, and we're going to work you into the contract. And we're going to say, we're going to make a Conan the Barbarian movie, and you have to play Conan. And nobody knew who fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger was at the time. They'd only taken him in from the Hercules of New York and Pumping Iron, his documentaries and bodybuilder movies. Lou Ferrigno shows up in, I think, one of them. Incredible Hulk fame, Lou Ferrigno. From that point, they bounce it around, trying to get funding, and it takes about 5 years to get Conan the Barbarian off the ground.
I think that's a pretty short amount of time, to be honest. In
1970s, 19 things. So it's not like it's phone calls and back and forth with Hollywood.
Yeah, but I feel like movies always take like a decade. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
That yeah.
Unless you're a Marvel movie, in which case it's just a machine.
Takes
which is
overnight.
No fun. Yeah, it's no fun. But I always hear stories of, I've been trying to get this going for 20 years, 10 years.
Black Adam.
Oh, God.
Jesus Christ.
That took that was like a 10-year movie, and it's like that's why the budget was so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they kept having to renew and do new licensing and do new marketing, and then it kind of flopped.
Yeah, and so I feel like 5 years is actually a pretty reasonable amount of time.
Well, they had a script written by 2 Marvel writers, in which case it then got scrapped, and Oliver Stone was brought in. Oliver Stone, infamous fame from films such as Platoon. He had just won he was just won, and I think nominated and won for an Academy Award for Platoon. He had worked on The Hand, Midnight Express. He would later go on to do Scarface, Salvador, 8 Million Ways to Die, Platoon, Wall Street, fucking The Doors, JFK. Like,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oliver Stone has done some incredible Natural Born Killers. Like, he's done some incredible stuff within the
Yeah,
movie.
those are some good credits.
So, we have Conan the Barbarian. It can't get made. We have an actor and a star, or not a star. We have an actor.
Yeah,
not
he's
even
not
an
a star
actor.
yet.
Not even an actor. We have a guy who can fit the boots and lift the sword.
Yeah.
They're panicking. They can't get funding. They can't get the movie made. They finally suck it up. And at the time, De Laurentiis, friend of the show, De Laurentiis, as if you would recognize the producer name from previous episodes, such as Dune, Flash Gordon, and I want to say another one we've done. De Laurentiis has done one more. Pretty much walks in and says, listen, here's what I can do. We're going to make it. You're going to give me this much. I'm going to buy the scripts off of you. We'll write them, and I'll have my daughter produce. And the movie is greenlit, and it goes. The idea with Conan the Barbarian originally was it was going to be the next James Bond. They wanted to make Oliver Stone set it up so they would make 12. They would do the books.
Oh.
They would film the books until they ran out, and they would wrap it up with King Conan as the ending, right? A story about an old man now who can't lift the sword anymore and wants to command and has to fade away.
Yeah.
History.
At that time, that was unheard of because you didn't really get long running of the same story. You might have
James
gotten
Bond had Moonraker and et cetera, within the franchise.
Yeah. But yeah, like there wasn't many that would just continue on the same franchise.
Right. They wanted to build out that story.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So that being said, Conan the Destroyer as a sequel.
Yeah.
Conan doesn't go anywhere after that
No.
until we get Red Sonja. In which case, Red Sonja, Arnold Schwarzenegger, tied and committed to Predator at the time, can't return.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And they lose the rights. So there's a character that looks like Conan.
I did
that
hear about
shows
that.
up and is just kind of like, I'm not Conan. I'm the king or whatever. And
I'm Gonan.
Grognar
Yeah.
thing. So this cult gem, I've been waiting to show you guys. Amanda, it's not your first time viewing it.
No, but it's been a few years. It's been quite a bit.
I want to ask, Adam, as your first viewing of Conan the Barbarian, and a 1982 film with a budget of $20 million.
Wow.
What'd you think?
I do have to say one thing before, because I just thought about it while we were sitting here recording.
We're going to go through the
I want to
plot.
show you something that this is not my first Conan experience.
Okay, we're going to go through the plot a little bit and kind of move through. Uh-oh, he's reaching for... Uh-oh.
People can see me in the background.
All right, he's reaching. He's pulled out a gun. This might be the...
This is Canada. No one
So
has guns.
I did play the MMO, Age of Conan, X amount of time ago. I've got the special edition.
Shit.
Wow.
I played the one for PS3 way back in the day. I don't think it was the MMO, but it was trying to be a God of War lookalike.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so this was after like people were trying to steal the thunder of WoW and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So no, I figured I'd be like, oh no, this is not my first rodeo with Conan.
Fantastic. Conan the Barbarian, the new one, by the way, before we actually get in your thoughts and what you thought of the movie and we go through a little bit of the plot, because I think we should walk through a little bit of this one, is the video game and the MMO where you can adjust the penis size.
What?
No, that was not a thing.
That was Conan. Yes, it is.
The MMO? No.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
The new one?
Oh, the new one. Maybe not. This is old.
Is that a computer game in there?
Yeah. It's an MMO.
Oh, okay.
So it comes with a little reading, the manual, the art of Hyboria. Mm-hmm. So I've got the art and a map, and it's manuals. The game's gone out of there. The game's somewhere else on my
Conan Exiles spared no expense on penis detail.
Oh, that's the new one. Yes. Yeah, that's the new one. Yeah.
You can adjust your penis size in Conan Exiles.
That's great.
Look for it in the comments and Google it with safe search off, cowards. So, let's have fun with this one. Adam.
Holy shit, I think you know that I loved it because the whole time I was laughing at some of the dumbest stuff.
You were quiet and then you'd laugh.
Yeah, I was quiet, like really into it, and then something would happen that was just, I want to say ridiculous, but for whatever reason, it felt okay in this world. Like a snake arrow, it was the most notable, and I just laughed so hard, but I loved it. I loved it felt like legit cheese, and I absolutely adored this movie. This was so much fun.
It is a fun time.
It is so much fun.
It's at this weird spot, though, like we said, with sword and sorcery, where you compare it to a Lord of the Rings or even a Game of Thrones now, where it is sword-wielding violence.
Yeah.
There is very little magic. The heroes don't necessarily have access to magic, but they might fight a harpy. They might fight. It's almost like Witcher comparable to this is almost high fantasy.
Yeah, yes.
Witcher's too high fantasy where they're like, there might be a Cyclops. Well, we haven't seen it, but there might be a Cyclops.
And they're rare. They're from an ancient civilization. There's only like 100 left of them.
Right. It's like a biblically accurate like dragon in some of those old French paintings, or where they're like not huge monsters, but just like Komodo dragon, like couch size.
Well, in the beginning, the prologue of it was a high adventuring world.
Yeah.
Right.
I was really concerned about the movie at the start because there was a lot of narration.
Yes.
And I don't like narration. I was very concerned. I actually wish there was no narration at the beginning, that we just got to see it. Because there were some moments that were really good that felt really intense, which was, say, for example, the moment where what the heck's his name? Thulsa Doom.
Yes.
Right at the beginning was just staring down Conan's mom, and you're not sure, like, what's he gonna do? And they just sit in silence.
It's quiet.
Just
it's quiet for the first like 30 minutes almost. There's no dialogue.
No dialogue. And they just sit there and they're just staring at Thulsa Doom's eyes, staring at her, staring at him, staring at her. And then he just sort of turns around, just slowly and weirdly, and then quickly chops her head off.
Well, no, he does one of these. He keeps contact as long as he can, and then looks away.
Thulsa Doom,
And
also
then just-
played by James Earl Jones, the legend himself.
I will admit the cut bags, like the really straight cut
Bangs.
bangs, really took away some of his
They
scariness.
were a little too short.
Yeah.
They did him a
But
little
the idea, he's
bad
got this
with that.
giant helmet on. He's got to be able to see.
But the other guys did too.
He's a villain. He's supposed to look a certain way. I'm sorry. This isn't a world of logic.
No, this is not a world of logic, and this is not a world of rules.
I think it's just because his face was so round, and it really was like
Maybe.
those kindergarten bangs where it really just rounded out his face.
Yeah.
Where I think if they would have done them a little less and more, like, I don't know, it's
They need to do something.
Hairdressing.
Just whatever that was, not that.
No.
Right.
But I think I wasn't sure about where the movie was going until the moment I was sold and bought in was when I noticed that they were fighting the snake quietly in the pit, and there's they were trying to wrestle a snake, and they're like, shh, like this giant snake. It's not a big affair. It's a hush hush because right above them is a ritual.
Yeah.
And then when I realized that they're going to sacrifice the woman to the snake that is now dead, and she fell in and broke her legs instead of getting eaten by the snake.
Yeah.
I laughed and went, I know what this kind of movie is. I know what they're going for.
Yep.
I'm in.
Yep. Nintendo Geek. Before we go any further, you've seen this before.
I've seen it a few times.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a few years to
It's
the
been a
point
bit.
that I forgot everything about it.
It's rewatchable.
So when he cut off his mom's head, and I'm like, what? And Adam's like, wait, you've seen this? I'm like, I forgot this happened.
The wound is still fresh.
It's been a few
Wound is
years.
still fresh.
I also used to fall asleep a lot during this movie as a younger, in my teens or my 20s. So
It's a weirdly, I don't know how long is the movie.
139 minutes.
2 hours.
2
But
hours? Okay,
it's
yeah, it
just
feels like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like watching Die Hard.
You do get your money's worth, though,
Yeah.
I feel like.
But it just felt like it never, it just, you kept making the joke where, oh, this is the third act. Oh, no, wait, no, this
Well,
is
Adam
the
kept
third act.
asking because he's trying to, frame it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
It definitely
No.
felt longer than what it was. But it's also nice because you don't know when it's going to end. So, every time it comes into a new, problem or new era of him getting, a new armor or him getting new weapons, it's okay, how far are we going to go here?
Well, you got to remember, too, right? Howard wrote them as pulp adventures. And that doesn't necessarily reflect in the script as much as it does kind of linger within the story. Because Conan was sort of this just long-running weird tale adventures. And they would either run into each other or that would be the close, and then you would pick up on Conan's on a boat.
Yeah.
And Conan's in a mountain, or he has fallen through ice and now is in a crypt of the skeleton of an alien race or a god or something, because he would clash with Lovecraft and be like, oh, I'm going to borrow that. And Lovecraft would be like, totally take that.
That is wild.
That's the thing. The circle of Lovecraft meant they would come to the table and be like, okay, what do you have? Let's bounce ideas off of each other.
Wow.
Within lore and world building and all of that stuff. Because Lovecraft was a big sucker for, sorry to interrupt you. Lovecraft was a big sucker for, I want to build out the Cthulhu mythos without having to do any work.
Yeah.
And all of my writer buddies will do it for me.
He gave
Same
out
thing
a
with-
lot of people the right to write for his stuff. I'm aware of that.
Same thing with Clark Ashton Smith. There was the Weird Tales era. There was just pumping out these authors and just weird tales. Nintendo Geek, continue.
Oh, I was just going to say, being so close to the ocean, when they were meeting with the Wizard of the Mountains, I could totally see him just going into the ocean and fighting a hydra.
Or a drowned god.
yeah.
Or some
just
giant
some
thing.
myth. But that would be going more into the Hercules
Or Clash of the
mythos.
Titans kind of era. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm reminded a lot of Beowulf
Yeah.
when I
Yes.
watch this.
So Howard himself loved mythology, and it's no secret that he pretty much clashed everything together. Growing up in a small town himself, would steal books from school and just for something to read, because he was bored in his youth. So he was going through everything back in the 20s and 30s, right? So it's no surprise that he's taking whatever he can get in his small little town and then daydreaming.
Yeah.
The pre D&D era kind of thing.
Yeah, I have to admit that I don't think I would have enjoyed this movie if I was younger.
Really?
I don't think that if I was 12, I don't know. It's hard to say because there's a slowness and a silence to it.
How many boobs?
How many boobs?
You're saying that as a 12-year-old, you wouldn't be like...
I don't know. You're right. That's a struggle.
You can't look us dead in the eye and go,
I didn't
fuck.
like the boobs.
I didn't like the boobs.
There was a lot of blood and a lot of
bobs.
boobs, and I'm not a fan of fun.
Yeah, I know. It's slow, very low dialogue, and I think my brain wouldn't have enjoyed it. It is campy. When I was a teenager, it was Linkin Park and I want the Matrix,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, well, that's the difference too, though, is the 80s.
High fantasy wasn't really around in the 90s and 2000s
Yeah.
until
Lord of the Rings.
until 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
it's the
sense.
Lord of the Rings.
So
It just
I
didn't,
get it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think as I was sitting down to think about this going, why didn't I see this when I was youthful? This
Yeah.
would have had such an impact on me
Yeah.
if I was younger. But I also recognize I probably wouldn't have liked it.
Would you have been, okay, so just going back to 2 other episodes, between this, Barbarella, and Flash Gordon as like a preteen era, like 13-year-old, which one, because it's sci-fi, kind of like adventure sci-fi, then this is just adventuring. What one do you think like young Adam would be most into?
Oh, it would have been Conan for sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm a very simple child.
Okay.
Bob's, vagine, and swords. Come on.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, no vagine, but whatever.
That's fine.
There was a couple times.
There was some questionable. Maybe if I had higher definition, I could pause it for a moment.
Yeah, when he flipped over like at least 2 of the ladies, it's like,
I think these movies, especially comparing it to Flash Gordon itself, are movies that are not afraid to take themselves too seriously,
yeah.
to lean into the lore, but also smile and look at the camera and have fun.
You can
Yeah.
Which is
definitely
important.
see where they got inspiration from because Barbarella was 60s, Flash Gordon was 70s.
It's comic
this
books
is
as well.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Flash was, I think, what is 78, 79?
Yeah.
When
The
Flash
movie,
Gordon, when Flash Gordon
So it
first
was
came out,
when
but they
this
were just
was-
ripping off these old comic books and like these novels that people were just suddenly reading again. It wasn't that they were bestsellers; it was just that they were noticing teenage boys picking them up because there was a game being played in people's basements that were worshiping and summoning the devil at
Yeah.
the time. In
Yeah.
1974, when Gygax started putting pieces together and building out a world, he was clearly stealing art from Frazetta and anyone else to build out. I mean, if you look at the entire Deities and Demigods book that TSR put out, it's full of copyright infringements, including Elric of Melbornia, or Melnibone. I keep saying it wrong every episode. I'll get it right. Elric of Melnibone, Conan and the Cromarians, fucking Crom, and all of these gods referencing these books. I mean, even the 5th edition, I'm pretty sure Pathfinder might even have it in the back of the book saying, hey, read these novels to unlock your imagination and tell amazing stories. Not good ones, but just get inspired.
Yes.
And TSR even seen that. They took this Conan the Barbarian and went and wrote adventures for it. They licensed the brand
Yes.
to continue writing. The thing is between this movie and the second movie, though, the second movie is when, without spoiling anything, it's a little bit more silly. They blend together, and I believe I was sitting there watching this film being like, doesn't he apologize to the camel in this one? Because the camel comes back. Like, the jokes, they're building this, like, cinematic universe.
I'm sorry, but if he apologized if I were to see that in a later movie, I probably would have laughed and loved that.
No, because the second one, it's not as good, but it holds up.
Oh, interesting.
For reference, he punches a camel in the face.
Hard. Well, high as
Falls,
fuck.
hard.
It falls down.
I do love he punches him. He's high as all hell. He punches him in like shock, like, oh my God. And then it cuts to another angle behind Conan. And that's when the camel just goes boonk.
Yeah.
The comedic timing of, I don't know whether it was on purpose. I don't know. It's hard to tell in these, like, whether
It's not quite slapstick.
Yeah, it was
weird.
Absolutely fantastic. Like the amount of time they spent on the woman, the sacrificial woman, who they spent so long she's just sitting there gyrating with her tits out.
Well,
And-
she was being like a snake.
Yeah, she's being a snake
Like
and
a
like
snake.
she's being sacrificed. And then all of a sudden you don't really realize what's going on. And then suddenly you start to they cut it in a way that the snake pit that Conan is in does not seem to be related to the ritual that's going up top.
Right.
And then as the fight's going on, as the fight comes to a conclusion, you're like, oh, wow, he fought a snake quietly. Why is he fighting quietly? And then they kind of quickly do a cut and you can see her gyrating up top. Oh, he's trying to be quiet, so they're not making noise. And then she starts standing up and you start to get this idea just after the snake dies that they're going to sacrifice her. He just killed. Oh my God, this is going to go poorly.
There's a few issues in that scene that I had of the, what was her name? Valera? Whoa.
Valera.
Valera, sorry. Where she snuck up behind one of the worshippers and then all of a sudden cut to her wearing the outfit. I'm like, wouldn't anybody notice her grabbing her,
So the thing
changing into the outfit? Also, the lady about to be sacrificed, if she just looked down, she wouldn't see this going on.
You're probably...
Unless they're just drugged up.
They're drugged up, probably. There's essence. But I thought it was funnier to see it just, like, one scene, you see Valeria just behind the chick, and you're like, okay, I don't know what she's doing. And then it cuts away, and then it cuts to an angle where you can see her in the background in the outfit.
Yeah.
And it's just a cut away joke. You're like, I know exactly what happened.
Yep.
This is, the timing of it was hilarious because it was just enough time for you to ask what happened and then answer it in just the right amount of time.
That's the thing. I don't think they were really trying to make this a comedy. And just the time, like you said, the timing of everything, it made it comedic.
There needs to be moments of brevity, though, because it is such a quiet movie within your Arnold Schwarzenegger not speaking whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like the comedic timing of the cuts were key, and I can't tell if it's on accident or on purpose. There's been a lot of movies where there's comedy, but it wasn't intended to be comedic.
Mm-hmm.
Like we watched Barbarella. There was a lot of those things that weren't trying to. They were trying to be serious.
That movie was all serious.
Yeah,
that's the funny part.
We found that funny, but this, you can tell they were intending these jokes. It was on purpose. It was clear. And it was great timing, and I just enjoyed the serious, because they had a really good balance of comedy, serious drama with I forget the guy, the buddy's name, the rogue, when they have him and he goes, "Why are you crying?" Because Conan won't. I'm crying for him. So they have these deep, dramatic character moments mixed with, I shoot a bow snake.
Yeah.
An arrow snake.
Yeah. Magic.
Yeah.
These people don't understand it.
Sabotai.
Yeah. Really, they just have I think they have a really good balance of those.
Yeah. It's a fun movie. It's a long movie.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know necessarily what you would cut from it, because it really, in a weird way, tells this elongated adventure. Mm-hmm. Even to the bits where, you know what? Let's do it. Let's get into the plot real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the plot of Conan the Barbarian. Conan's father, we don't actually have a name for it, forges a sword, and the movie opens to sparks, fire, and steel, and it's fucking metal. And then he starts talking to his father and telling Conan, or his father starts talking to young Conan and telling him that we are just men. And there was gods that ruled, and then the giants pissed off the gods, and the giants died, and they stole the secrets of steel, and they've filled the earth, and now we are able to do what we can do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Before that,
we are but nothing to them.
We are nothing, right? We pray to Crom, but Crom may never answer our prayers, and we need to accept that. And there's this weird Valhalla vibe running through it, even though they're not Vikings.
He does say Valhalla.
He mentions Valhalla.
Okay.
He does say, hey, if Crom judges me well when I die, he will bring me to Valhalla. Mm-hmm. He does mention that.
From there, we get a peaceful morning in the village, and then the serpent rides in.
Yeah.
The black sun and the moon with the two serpents like this.
Facing each other.
And it's fucking
they are the
dope.
one and the same, and they face each other.
And they pillage. And they don't even pillage.
They
just kill them.
Burn and kill.
They burn and kill. Atlanteans, led by Atlantean sorcerers.
Are they actually supposed to be Atlanteans?
They're Atlantean sorcerers.
Oh, I didn't get that.
That ride through with barbarians and whatever survivors they had, destroy the countryside. In which case we are introduced to James Earl Jones, who takes off his helmet, big old Tharizdun.
I do like that they kind of just kept upping the villain. Yeah. So they had the first guy grab the sword that was just made.
Yeah.
And they're like enamored by it.
And they're enamored by it.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. And then then he looks at it and hands it off to the next guy, and you think, oh, he's the big bad boss because he's got a bigger helmet, and he takes off his helmet. And then from behind comes James Earl Jones, and there's a bigger villain.
And nobody says anything.
No.
It's quiet. It's just communication with eyes, and you can imagine telepathy maybe.
Well, it's all body language.
I don't think there was even music.
There isn't.
It was quiet.
And that's what's eerie.
And then it's his mom just standing there ready to go, like to defend, because she's the only one left in the village.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to take her as like a wife.
That's what I thought.
I didn't think, that's why I'm like, what? When he killed her, because I'm like, I thought literally he was just going to go and be like, hey, you're the surviving one.
There was a moment where I thought, and this is what I meant by, there was a lot of tension in that quiet scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I thought James Earl Jones, like he was kind of handing out the sword. I thought, because they just narrated Conan, destined to be king, destiny this, destiny that. And I thought for a moment he was burning the village and then was going to give the sword to Conan to like fulfill a corrupt version of that destiny.
Right. In which case, James Earl Jones doesn't say a word and speaks only with his eyes, and it's fucking wild. From there, he kills his mother in front of Conan, and Conan is captured and taken into slavery to push the wheel of pain.
Which I love that we never ever learned what it does.
So what's actually funny?
I think that's in the second movie, isn't it?
Nope.
No?
It's in this one. That's it. They built the wheel of pain as almost like a Viking windmill.
Yeah.
For the audio listeners, it is a giant spoked wheel.
Yes.
With almost like not a mortar and pestle, but a giant
like a grinding
rock. Stones, like a old school windmill. And the thing is when the production company built it, they built it too balanced. So when Arnold walked up and went to go push it to be like, all right, cool, it was too easy. And the first time he pushes it, he puts his full weight in because they're like, we need you to act like it's 1,000 pounds. This is going to be really trouble.
It's really hard
He slams it and it spins and cracks him in the back of the head. So in those scenes, even with the children, they have the production crew on the other side of the wheel
actually
pushing against it.
Oh,
And Arnold's dragging them.
Holy shit.
Yeah, because they needed it to look real because they built it too well. It's just a wheel on like a spindle, right?
Yeah. They actually had ball bearings, not just stones.
Yeah, right. But they did it right, and it just boom and spins. From there, we get the transition of time.
I loved it.
What I appreciate of it is it shows him as a kid, and then it never shows his face, but it just shows his thighs and the progression.
Different actors. It's not actually Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
But like different, like, you know, that's how you know he's getting stronger.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, I didn't notice because I was looking at his thighs, but like
glistening.
Glistening. There was less and less people.
Yeah, I noticed the children were getting less and less and less.
Yeah, because they were either dying out or they couldn't do it. And at first he was struggling. He was like head down, pushing, and then eventually by the end of it, he's upright pushing it.
Yeah.
So he got so strong that he didn't need to.
And he's by himself too. There's no one left.
So he's literally upright doing it rather than his whole weight doing it.
Right.
Yeah, it was a great. I thought that was a really good time montage.
Yeah.
Time montage where it really explained this is how he got strong. This is how strong he is. Look, and it also showed not just his strength, but his power was determination.
So the concept here too is, remember, they wanted to make 12 of these, or at least 3, a trilogy.
Yeah.
Oliver Stone's dream was 12 because he wanted to make James Bond money.
That makes sense.
I don't blame him. The studio went, we might make 3 depending if contracts and Arnold doesn't explode and become a bigger actor.
Yeah.
Which he did.
But the idea of we're going to fast track the hero's origin story or main character, because Conan isn't necessarily a hero and he's not quite a villain in a way, right? Conan gets sold into slavery and becomes a gladiator in a fighting pit. And then we get our next montage of just brutality and continues this journey. And then we get different weapons and different cultures from different parts of the map. And he's kind of getting carted around because at first he's dragged on a chain. And then by the hard cut, he's got 2 oxes and crates of gold and weapons. And he's sitting on furs, eating and drinking.
They're bringing
him the main attraction through to a point where he goes, presumably and stereotypically, east. In which case, he is trained in Asian cultures with different weapons and swords.
I was thinking about it because I was playing, when I remember playing this game, the Asian themes were very mixed with the barbarian Western themes. Well, so I didn't get the idea that Hyboria was necessarily like supposed to be an Eastern like country. Like he went to the East. I think that's just the way Hyboria is.
I think it's that sweet spot of not Marco Polo, but Genghis Khan.
Genghis
Khan is James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
And he makes his way all the way to the Vikings.
Yeah.
And now a Viking is hunting down Genghis Khan all the way back into Asia.
Yes, yeah.
And that's Conan boiled in a nutshell within the biggest map and the writings and everything like that. But then all of a sudden he fights werewolves and witches and skeleton armies and shit like that.
I was upset. So they did the montage where they showed. It's weird that they really showed who this character was.
Yeah.
Because they talked about, hey, he was trained in reading and writing. Now they never show that off, unfortunately. But we all know why.
There's a little bit of it's weird because Conan the character in the novels or in the manga, the comic books themselves. Dark Horse Comics has the rights to it. Marvel Comics had it for a long time. They did show like Conan didn't force his way through things unless he absolutely had to. He didn't want to spring the trap. He's a thief as much as he's a barbarian.
Yeah.
So he wanted to think and like the riddles and rhymes and poetry.
That makes sense. But they tried to show that he had that, but obviously because of the whole Arnold couldn't really speak English all that well at this time, they couldn't show that off.
Right.
Okay, fair. I understand why they did that. But there was a scene that really opened my eyes as to what kind of character he was, where they brought in a woman, like, we breeded him because we want babies like him.
Yeah.
We want more slave babies, really.
Yeah. Or fighters.
Fighters,
We can make money.
That's before he went east.
Yeah.
No, he went east. He went east and he had sword training and then he was bred. Yeah, he was bred.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was a scene where they basically just shoved another naked lady in front of us, in front of the screen.
Yep.
And he
Lot
covered
of boobs in this one.
A lot of boobs. And he covered her up, and I'm like, oh, he's going to. And there's a bunch of dudes just watching through the cage.
Yeah.
Really weird. But I just thought, like, oh, he's going to be nice to her, and he's a hero character. And then he kind of cuts her and then lays her down, forces her down. And then, like, reforces the thing he just put on her open, and then gets on top. I'm like, oh.
He opens her up like a Taco Bell burrito.
Well, she was on the other side of a rock at that point. Like, there was a little bit of, like, a modesty.
No, but it really opened up the character where I thought, oh, he's a hero. And then I went, nope, he's not a hero.
I think the idea, too, though, with that is it breaks down that he is not a savage anymore.
Yeah.
He's choosing acts of gentleness. I won't say kindness, but gentle.
Yeah.
Gentle acts only because of he is trying to be better and grow as an individual.
True.
Away from slavery and violence.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
He is reading. He is getting educated. He is cultured. He's learning how to not necessarily write, but navigate.
Yeah. Okay. I can see what they're trying to show there. That makes sense.
Right. So that's why I think it's less of like, rape and pillage or just like he's having his way with her, which he inevitably is.
Yeah.
But there is a gentle softness to it.
Yeah. It's not rape as much as it is. Well, I don't know. It is still kind of rape.
It's rape.
It's rape. It's rape.
He's raping her.
But it's really hard for me to justify and be like, oh, that's fine. Calmly gentle rape is okay. Like, no,
it's not. But it's in a disgusting, a really disgusting term. It's fantasy dog breeding.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Which is not nice. No, it's gross. That's why I'm like, it's not okay. But they're dog breeding.
I get what they're trying to show, but you're right. It still does not make him a hero, and I think that's an important show there.
Right.
The other thing I really liked is when they were doing all that, they really showed that Conan. Because he learned with katana, he learned with the shogun, the guy who asks the question of what is best in life, has the shogun, like the samurai helmet thing.
Yeah.
So he's learning from different cultures and things like that.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the fact that they showed that Conan wasn't just a brute of muscle.
Right.
He had sword training not just for big swords, but for lithe swords, speed.
So is Conan a barbarian or is Conan a fighter?
He's a fighter,
right?
At this point,
a fighter with a couple points of rogue. Like,
it's interesting
he's not.
You say that because in the movie poster it says barbarian, warrior, gladiator, king. So it kind of is in like 4 parts where he just evolves into his like final form.
You see different acts in his life.
Yeah, and I think that's why the person cut him free because they're like, "Hey, you learned everything you can. You were better than this. Go. I'm gonna probably get murdered for this, but like." You have to be out in the world. Like, you have other things
You think there's a bit of guilt and they didn't want to spend too much time on it? And instead of Conan escaping, he is freed. That way he's not hunted.
I wish I didn't understand that guy's, like, purpose.
Motives.
Like,
well, he's the one that brought him into the fighting pits in the first place.
He's the one who bought him originally.
He must have made his money.
Well, he was also the redheaded kid that locked him up.
Yeah, he what?
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh.
Yeah, in the Wheel of Pain. That's why they're like boys.
Oh.
They're like boys.
So he let him go. He made their money. They
Yeah.
were boys, and then he's like, "I gotta let you go now."
Conan's strong enough.
I
I'm coming
forgot
back to take. Yeah,
about
there's a
that.
redheaded kid
He
that's
felt
like
for him.
that locks him up and then slacks him and is like probably
He's
talking
like,
to him
"I
all
don't
day.
own you. You're free."
I did not notice that.
I didn't know
Hey,
that was him.
You will work for me until you earn your freedom.
Let's both make some money off of this.
You just blew my fucking
Yeah.
mind. Okay, that actually does give me context for his actions.
And you were abducted as a child, so allow me to forcefully exploit you, but give you tools to survive in the world.
yeah.
Like
probably-
literature and training and knowing what poison plants not to eat and
He
shit like
probably
that.
talked to him too, being like, "I need to
He
find
did.
the people that killed my people."
Right.
Yeah. I wish they had spent a little bit more time. Not necessarily, I don't need dialogue.
No.
But those two sitting by a fire alone.
Or him giving him an apple.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
piece of an apple.
They just need
or
to
like
hand over something. Like,
Kid Conan pushing it as a
they need to
child,
show him giving him, instead of
a
Conan.
sip
'Cause-
of water or something.
Yeah, when they showed Conan reading like
Yeah.
the scrolls and stuff, what
Yeah.
they should have been is this guy giving him the scrolls. This guy giving him
Yeah.
this guy bringing him to the Asian trainer and saying train. You know what I mean? They should have showed it. It was this guy giving this to Conan.
Right.
And then when he freed him, he should have been like, You're
Go.
good. We are even.
Please
Go."
don't come back and kill me. You are good.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I think there still needed to be something more there.
Yeah.
To show that it was more of an equalness, I guess you could say, or at least a
But
respect.
there never would be. There would just be a respect.
Yeah, a respect. That's a respect. I think you're right. They needed to show that, but I think that was a weakness in this.
I think it's honestly, when it comes down to filmmaking, it's one extra scene.
Yeah,
You're already over budget.
there are some other scenes they could have cut, like
Yeah.
some of the running scenes.
I think that's
Early
just
on.
to show the vastness of the world.
I guess.
Because we're getting to another running scene.
Oh.
As we segue to Conan running for his life from dogs, or actually wolves. And then
Which,
Geek.
those dogs actually were very dangerous. They actually,
And we're not trained.
No, they attacked their handler. And so when he's running, he is running because if those dogs catch him, they will bite him.
All right,
are very
Mr.
unsafe.
Mr. Schwarzenegger. We need you to go and run up on that rock. It's good for the scene, but also you'll die if you
We'll-
don't.
we'll give you
and
a-
action.
Straight
10
out.
second head start.
10-second hard.
But if these dogs catch him, they are going to maul him.
So in bloopers,
Not good.
he runs, he falls, the dogs get him.
Really?
And
No.
they cut him. And they bite him.
I didn't
And
see
then the
that.
trainer comes in and steps in and grabs him out. And they're like, he's like, the director's name is like John. And he's yelling, "John, I'm bleeding." And John's like, "Great. It's going to look amazing. Keep fucking shooting. Go, climb up," kind of thing. He's like, "I'm fucking bleeding."
Oh
Right? And
my
they're like, "No,
God.
keep going. Climb up," kind of thing.
Yeah,
He
those-
probably, to be fair, he probably didn't understand what Schwarzenegger was trying to say.
No, I think at that point they didn't have to spend money on blood, and they just kept filming because
You
it looked
could
real
not do
because
that
it was
these
real.
days.
'cause
I
of
wonder
these
if
dog
that's
attack.
what they did to Conan's dad, because I thought that was a really brutal
Well, those
scene.
are Rottweilers.
Yeah, but I thought that was a really brutal scene that they just showed dogs slowly eating Conan's dad, like
Yeah.
just mauling him.
It's the 80s. They were in
That would not happen
Turkey.
these days.
It was fine.
Other than Leonardo DiCaprio, like with the
The
The hand,
skull.
the
scene,
glass.
and he's like, "Oh," and everyone's horrified.
Jesus. So a bunch of people got hurt on this movie.
I could see
Yeah.
why. It
Bunch of
was
people got hurt.
well, he did his own stunts because they couldn't find him and I want to say him and Sven Ole because they were the two biggest guys. I think they couldn't find body doubles.
That makes sense.
So they did all their own stunts.
They didn't just take two people, tape them together.
So another example I would give quick would be when Valera is sword fighting in the climax when they're going into the orgy pit. The football player Rexor goes in to swing, and because he's not an actor, he doesn't do things at half speed. He did
Yeah.
things at full
Oh.
speed. And there was a moment on set where the director, John, was like, "Grab me. I want you to throw me into the pillar, and then I want you to swing your axe down on me." And he throws him into the pillar, knocking the wind out of the director, and then the director has to roll out of the way because John's like, "All right, cool, we're acting." And comes full down with an aluminum, but like a metal axe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Rolls out of the way and goes, "That was great. That was great." Valera deflects on accident. Rexor parries, causing the sword to come down on the hilt, cutting her thumb almost completely off.
Wait,
so
is
then
that-
at that point, she goes and gets stitches.
Did she lose the tip of her finger?
I don't know if she lost the tip of her finger, but at that point, the stunt coordinator had come in, and John, let me look up his name real quick. John Miles doesn't necessarily apologize, but simply tells her that the stunt coordinator has told him that will never happen again, like ever, kind of thing. Like it's like, whoa, it was like, it wasn't an apology. It was straight out like his career, like he will never do that in his career ever again, or he just doesn't have a career just because of that kind of fuck up, just because of this. They're not using live steel, but there's enough force.
There's enough force, yeah.
Even with a piece of plastic coming at 100 miles an hour, you could cut your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
bad. Anyway,
Brutal.
Conan runs from dogs. Conan travels on his own for the first time in the world. Conan finds a lady friend.
Oh my god!
What did we all think of the witch scene? Did you expect the witch?
Wait, her name is Witch.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But she's asking information, and
Would
what
you
was
like
it?
to come warm yourself by my fire? And then she proceeds to like
Crawl around like an animal.
crawl and then
Oh, it's
throw
sexy.
powder.
Oh,
into
she
the
just like throw
fire.
powers behind herself into the fire.
Magic.
Just magic hands.
Oh no, my favorite's like I will need payment. Hard cut sex.
I interrupted real quick for a second here. Conan runs from the dogs and gets falls into a crypt.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
Gets the signature sword.
Yeah, yeah.
The signature Conan sword.
Yeah.
An Atlantean silver blade, I believe. It's not a magic sword, but it's from Atlantis.
So it's stronger
It's
than.
something, but in a weird old way. So he's carrying the weapon of the enemy at this point.
See, I thought when the skeleton was moving, I'm like, are they gonna have him fight a skeleton?
I
And
originally
it was just him is settling, right?
had a like gold book as a child. The old gold stripe, like
Yeah.
children's books, right? Not Cat in the Hat, but like you cheaper children's things. And it was a Conan one, and he fucking fights that skeleton. The skeleton
Really?
gets up
Oh.
and kicks his ass. Like it's like this. He takes the sword. The skeleton gets up and grabs like a mace and just starts swinging it, destroying the building
Wait,
around
I
him,
have to
and then
see
it
this.
falls.
Oh,
And
so yeah, because when he looked at that guy, he said crawler. I thought
Crom.
Crawl. He said
Crom.
Crom.
Like Crom at this point is praising him, giving him the tools that Conan believes with dumb luck that his god is guiding him on this journey
Yeah.
to find food, shelter, and weapons,
yeah, that makes
right?
sense.
Protection. But he's not. Or is, depending on your interpretation of the film.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Conan and the Witch.
I loved that scene in the crypt.
The
There
crypt.
was, like,
It's cool,
There was
man.
there again. They did a lot of silent energy where it's like, is he gonna fight this thing? Because this is a world where that could totally happen.
And it looks like a guy in a suit.
Yeah,
It totally looks like a guy in a skeleton costume that's going to get up and not be goofy or say anything, but his eyes might like rotoscope green, and then he might just start swinging an axe or something around, and Conan's got to kill this old decrepit king.
What
Yeah.
would have been cool was they used the effects later in the movie when they were fast forwarding when the spirit realm
Right.
was trying to come. But if they would have done that, but green and just had a like not bear but fair ghostly skeleton, kind of like Lord of the Rings,
Right.
that would have been really cool. Way over budget, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
that
Well, yeah.
would have been a cool fight.
yeah, that would have
I
been.
guarantee they contemplated Conan fighting the skeleton, but I think the argument was, okay, we have a skeleton fight where he gets his sword, more action. We have a
Yeah.
running moment of action with the dogs, more action with the skeleton fight,
Yeah,
or Conan taking the sword, and I almost wish the skeleton like asked Conan in a whispery voice throughout the echo of the hall, what is the riddle of steel? What is
yeah.
like boom, and he's like, I'm not worthy of this sword yet, and the dead king is asking him, what is?
See, I kind of liked the way what happened was when he got the sword, there's like the hand cricking. You're like, oh my God, are they going to
fuck.
fight?
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening was the skeleton's head kind of fell down, bowing to Conan.
Yeah.
I went, that is so cool.
Which also though an Atlantean king within the armor,
Yeah.
or an older generational.
See, I
or
didn't get that it was
culture king.
Atlantean. I just assumed it was an older culture.
Yeah, an older culture king bowing, saying you are worthy and you are moving on as successor.
Yeah.
Picking up the blade.
Well, I love that he was just banging it, trying to get the rust off of it.
Yeah.
And it's just, he's just banging off like years and years of rust.
But it's clearly a magic. Like, I assume in this world it's a magical sword because it didn't really rust. He just kind of shakes it off and goes, wow, it's perfectly intact after all these years. I took it as this world has little light magic, but the fact that our hero, air quotes, gets the magical sword, that makes sense. It's a magical sword.
The main crutch of sword and sorcery.
And
there is 4 magic items in the world.
Yeah.
And your hero never has more than one.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. The villain's got one, your hero has one, and someone's got to stop it to balance the scales.
Yes, exactly.
If not, we're fucked.
I loved the scene where he got out and you see the dogs barking. He's looking at him like, motherfuckers, you're done for. And he just
and then
cuts
he has
his
all
thing.
the pelts on him.
He does. As we approach the witch's tent, or the
And
witch's
he's
cave, he's covered in
pelts.
wolf pelts.
Yeah.
So
Great.
So he sleeps with the witch, a lot of sex. Then he tries to burn her alive as she tries to dig her fingernails and goes full feral goblin
snake.
mode.
She goes snake.
Does it snake?
Yeah, it's snake eyes and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't realize it was snake
It was
eyes. I thought
snakes.
she was just going full feral and she was digging her claws into him.
Yeah, it was snakes.
Oh. And then she fucking
He threw
evaporates.
her into the fire.
She evaporates out.
Yeah, like her spirit goes somewhere. It never really goes back to it. Like I was expecting her to show back up somewhere in the temple.
That would have made sense.
Like if she would have just like if she was trying to like spy, but she had captured his buddy, Sabatai. And it's like I made the joke of like, did he hear all that? Was he just out there all night?
There's a dude starving, and all you can hear is "Destiny sucks."
Yeah, and it's like,
Destiny
hey
sucks.
man, help me out. And he's like, sure, you're my friend. You're my friend now.
And he picks him up, carries him over his shoulder like a baby girl.
And then they're buds.
Yeah.
And he becomes like his best friend.
And asks pretty much, where the fuck am I going? Because Conan doesn't know the area.
No.
Yeah.
In which case, we go to a castle in Spain. I mean, we go to a great city.
Madrid.
Madrid. Conan and Sabadai.
Yeah. Sad that we can never remember his name.
He's such a good character.
Because in the movie I thought he was saying Zabadai, but it's Sabatai.
Yeah, it's Robin.
Explode the city.
Jerry.
And
Let's call him Jerry.
Jerry
Lopez.
Jerry Lopez and Arnold Schwarzenegger explore the great city and are completely fish out of water.
Yes.
But we see a snake tower.
But he manages to punch a camel, kick a dog.
Tons of drugs.
They pushed a horse out of the way in the beginning. Like, there's just the animal abuse in this.
There's also the scene we're getting to with the snake where he basically just kicks a rat out of the way, and you can see the rat just kind of go flying off screen.
Yeah, it's like, they kick a dog on their way and punch a camel in the face.
Yeah. Conan don't give a fuck. Conan don't give a fuck. It's unfortunate, but Conan, no. At which point, you're starting to see more and more serpent towers. In which case, we get a reused shot of the same city, just from a different angle.
Yep.
As they enter back in to see them go, yo, we need to make some money. And they do drugs and go, yo, let's break into the tower.
The Black Lotus, which I made the joke, I don't know if you heard. I'm like, you know how much that's worth?
That magic card.
Like the Magic, the Gathering card.
Oh, the Black Lotus card. I didn't think of that.
They grind up the Black Lotus Magic the Gathering
worth
card
so
and smoke it. They each rip it in half and eat a piece of the paper. In which case, we watch them climb up. Oh no, they don't climb up. They run into Valeria for the first time, and they're all thieves.
It kind of reminded me of that
What do you think
Spider-Man.
of the thief aspect of it? Yeah.
I kind of like that. I was not expecting Conan to be a thief type, but you know what? They do show off that he has various skill sets.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like, oh, this isn't legit. It kind of just felt like, all right, it's just another aspect of this awesomely powerful dude. Like they showed off like how great he is.
Arnold practice, because when they first approached him, De Laurentiis said he's not big enough, so he had to lose weight and gain muscle. So he rope trained, like climbed ropes all day, horse trained, like all of this shit.
I will counter that because I read that he was too big, and they had to adjust him in a way because his shoulders and his arms were too big. He couldn't properly use a sword, so they probably had to trim him.
Yeah.
In certain ways, so he can still have the range of motion.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because he was almost like because he was like bodybuilder mode.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just really like the scene where you have the two thieves who are high as fuck at this point. These guys are high, and they're like, y'all want to go rob a temple?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
And her counter argument is going, you don't have rope. what was the fucking plan here?
Well, there's just like there was no plan, but
Right.
like I just love the Spider-Man moment where they're like, wait, you're not a guard, you're not a guard.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of the classic drunk guy where they're like, yeah, we're like her and Jerry basically use the rope to climb up. And he's like that classic drunk guy being like, I can lift that. And then he literally just used daggers to climb up because he's invincible at that point.
this
He's
point.
feeling no pain.
Not at
Yeah.
all. He is a spider. He is a spider.
I do love that they just show the world's best rogue. Ka-chink, ka-chink, ka-chink,
Yeah.
ka-chink.
All the way up.
Like, you know what? That's actually a pretty useful rogue skill.
We get the break in to the first snake temple. I almost said spider temple. And at which point they go down this huge well shaft. And then we get our real first Frazetta painting
Yeah.
as Conan versus a giant serpent. And you're kind of getting like this levels of, is it magical? Is it not a magical world?
I'm putting up the picture of
Yeah.
that snake fight.
Yeah. Is it a magical world? Is it not a magical world? Or did they just get a snake and just start feeding it people every day?
Yeah.
And it just got big kind of thing. We get a little bit more nudity and we get a
little bit
of nudity. And then we get our first taste of the cult
Yeah.
and how willing the followers are of the sect.
Yes.
In which case they rob the Conan and crew, rob and take whatever they can.
Well, he finds the jade symbol.
Yep.
And that's the first time he's like, oh, I'm on the right track. This isn't just like a
It's
random.
these people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he takes it, the big jade symbol of the snake and the sun and moon.
Yes.
As well as the eye. And then he wakes up the snake.
Wakes up the snake because he's a sweaty boy.
That fight.
He's just dripping.
Oh my God. He's so sweaty.
Nervous.
Yeah. It very much felt like that Indiana Jones
Yeah.
kind of bag of sand kind of thing going on. Do you know what I'm talking about?
There's the whip.
Okay. So in the first Indiana Jones,
Raiders of the Lost
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It belongs
when he first gets the idol,
It belongs with the nation it was founded in, and not the British Museum.
It's like the,
Appropriation and
he's got the sandbag.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
He does too, and he's just being a dick.
right.
But yeah, it felt like that was very interesting to me. Because it's like, yeah, he's doing the whole rogue thing. And
Right.
I just love that you don't quite know what, like, they're shooting these two different shots of the lady doing the snake thing and the cult, and they're jumping to Valeria and they're jumping to him, but it seems like three different things happening on like two different floors.
3 different planes of action within. Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, after the snake dies, they have this really weird puppeteering
I
fight.
feel we talked
It's a
about this
giant
already.
mechanical.
We did.
It's a giant mechanical snake that the production.
mechanical.
It's a mechanical snake. It was the actual production team that worked on Jaws 2 that built it. And the thing was, is the snake itself was so large, like they built the entire fucking snake.
Holy shit.
And they're like, well, we can only shoot its head, so we'll wrap its body, its limp body,
okay.
around the pillar for the rest of it because it was all mechanical.
Oh,
because
wow.
they didn't realize the size of the space when it was. You asked for a giant snake. Well, we need a giant snake for a fight in a closet.
Yeah, yeah,
You asked
yeah.
for a giant snake, so what do you want us to do with
all
it?
they
And they're
got
like,
was
oh,
like 3 feet of it.
yeah.
And
So
they
all you
made
really
20.
see, is
That's
Wow.
crazy.
No wonder the budget was like. I'm assuming they went over budget.
Well, if you think about it, right? They were using Frazetta paintings as references
yeah.
Yeah.
for concept art. So it's a fucking giant snake.
Great
And they're like,
choice.
all right, let's go, kind of thing.
It was, I think it was one of the weaker fights just because I felt the puppeteering of the snake was a little rough. And I felt it got dispatched a little too quickly.
Yeah.
I did like the whole, I liked the twist of it's not just Arnold going, I'm going to fight you. It's like, no, we need to shut the fuck up and have a silent fight with this thing.
Right.
I really enjoyed that comment. I wish it lasted a little longer.
Yeah.
I wish there was a bit more back and forth play of like, try not to make a noise, hold up a statue. You know what I mean?
They down crank the camera, and that way the snake's movement, even though it's mechanical, and it when you see that scene again, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, the people from Jaws worked on it because it does
Yeah.
move, right? It's not like the Jim Henson team where it's a little bit more natural. As much as that giant snake looks, it feels like somebody's fucking arm and someone's attacking an arm and a hand.
Yeah.
Where if they down cranked it, it would have been the snake is moving way quicker, but the frame rate would have been weird. And then at that point, Arnold who's not necessarily professionally trained, would have had to have acted swinging the sword slower to fight. And I feel like it would have been an even more complicated scene on the actors, though it would have, in our armchair director seat, looked and felt a lot better. Because you almost want that pullback shot of the scope and size of the snake within that arena. Yes, it slivers the round. So you get this giant snake, and like once again, you have, like you referenced the Snyder shot of Conan, the sword, this huge towering serpent, not making a sound either because that's not how snakes hunt.
Yeah,
about to lunge, and that's when he fucking does does the samurai swing and cuts its head off.
I think once they revealed, like they didn't reveal that they were under. I didn't realize they were underneath the pit that the sacrificial woman was going to fall into. I didn't realize that was what was going on. The altar and everything. I didn't really realize what was going on. I kind of wish I got a bit more of that fight where they showed you a little bit ahead of time what's going on. And you got to see Conan actively trying not to make a noise. Like he goes to swing, and just as he's about to hit stone, like
grabs
he's
him.
got to hold back, and like, you know, like moments where there's tension build up of shh, fight this giant snake, but shh. I didn't really get that. It was after the fight because I was like, why are they being quiet? What's going on? Why is he like instead of And then they finally cut to a scene where they showed the camera from down below where Conan was upwards, and they showed the princess. They showed the cultist, and I went, oh, they're underneath. That's why they're being quiet. It was a retrospective knowledge, but I wish I had known that ahead, and I wish they played out that scene where he was just trying not to make as many noises.
Yeah,
you almost needed a top-down shot.
You almost needed
where they're praying, the cultist is about to jump off.
You needed Jerry being like, just like this, like be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, or a top down, both probably.
Right, because then you would have seen the cultists, everything that's happening, and then them sneaking in, and then we reverse
What happened though? Now thinking about it, was he grabbed the rupee, put the rupee, was about to leave because Subutai was already through the tunnel again.
Yeah, right.
And then he noticed the
Snake's
ornament.
Yes.
He didn't notice the snake was.
Oh, yeah,
He noticed the ornament, and he went and got transfixed, and that's when the snake unraveled and went after him.
Yeah.
Because he was supposed to just take off.
Yeah.
And then he stayed enough and got attacked. And then his friend had to come and save him.
So just before we get out of the snake temple and we get into...
It was a very important scene, I think.
Yeah, it is an important scene. Before we get out of the snake temple and we go into the next scene, because I really like the next scene for what they do with the adventurers. But the doctor, or the snake master, or Dr. Snake at this point, brought in serpents for every person on set to get familiar. That way the snakes would be comfortable with each person.
That makes sense.
Okay. James
Earl Jones, originally in his youth, was a part of the army, trained as a ranger, in which case you have to familiar yourself with a snake. And this is an extra from the DVD, in which case you let the snake slither all over you until it becomes comfortable, and you have to pretty much live out a week with the snake until the end of the week, in which case you kill it and eat the snake.
What?
Oh.
So he walked into set being like, the director is like, you're too chill with these snakes. Like, you're hanging out with these snakes, and we need a little bit more liveliness from the snakes because they're just hanging out and falling asleep. Yeah, you know how to handle snakes.
We need them to get them a bit more energy.
Right, we need more energy, and you're just putting them to sleep. Like, stop putting the snakes to sleep. Kind of thing. But that's why he tried to have snakes in every scene.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Any scene with the cult or any of that, there's always snakes.
There's always someone with snakes on their hands,
someone or
around
jewelry or anything like that. There's always a snake in the room.
Yeah.
There's a snake in my boot. At which point, Conan, Valera have a tender moment. They count their booty and their riches in the hall as they stolen from the notorious serpent cult across the land. Mm-hmm. And we get a love scene. We get a little bit of tenderness. We get some fucking.
More fucking.
It's pretty good. It's a lovely scene. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in best shape of his life, looking fantastic. But we then get them rich as fuck and not necessarily knowing what to do with their wealth.
Drunk
and driving up too much attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're throwing money around and they're wealthy and they're like, we got it. Yeah. Like this money's never going to run out. And then we get a hard cut to where they're buying shit that they don't need just to spend. And then the next hard cut is them sitting outside the tavern, eating a bowl of grog or gruel, poor as shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, they just spent it all. And at this point,
The king.
King Osric.
Thank you. King Osric steps in and his men come in to find them because, you know, at this point, they've told the tale that we broke into the snake cult because they've been probably drunk
Or they
every
just
night.
thrown money around.
Right.
People have seen the necklace thing.
Right. And they get dragged for a company of the king. And the king, played by a friend of the show, Max von Sydow, Ming the Merciless.
Yes.
Oh, that was him.
That was Ming the Merciless.
Oh
so
my God.
he had
I didn't
done
recognize without the brows.
he had done Flash Gordon
The original
2
brows.
years beforehand.
Yep.
In which case they honestly thought they would never get him. But his oldest son was a huge Conan the Barbarian fan.
Oh.
And after him doing such serious roles and evil villains, he wanted some fun. He's like, give me a role I can actually chew on, and when and where I'll do it. Like, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I'll be there. And he loved it. He loved the almost King Lear back and forth.
Yeah.
And the breakdown of his character. What's really interesting about the scene, besides the emotional moments about all that glitters is gold and will fade, and I am stuck here in a prison cell of a throne room, is originally followers of the sect were going to be surrounding him and murdering him to show that they have infiltrated, and this is how his daughter got out. But it was cut because they couldn't kill him.
No.
They could not kill him. Originally, they said, all right, cool. We're going to stab you in the back, right? Like with that dagger.
Yeah.
That's why they reference the dagger and that
Yeah,
scene
yeah.
plays out that way. We're going to stab you in the back with the dagger, and they missed. And then it didn't look good because there was too many guys and the camera would get too close.
Okay.
And then they fucking had a blood pack on him, and they'd swing 3 swords at him and hit him. And he'd act because Max von Sydow's a fucking theater actor.
Yeah.
And they'd miss. So now he's like, I've taken 4 shots to the ribs now
Oh,
with a rubber
and he's
sword.
like, screw
And they
this.
keep missing the blood pack. At this point, they fill him with blood packs
Oh no.
and finally go in for the killing blow where they accidentally pop pretty much all of them. So at this point, he's in this costume and his entire chest explodes.
Oh my God.
And there's just blood everywhere. And
This is unprofessional.
Everyone's covered in blood. And at that point, they all just sit, either he sits back on the throne or they all collapse on the floor because they're laughing. And they're like, we can't use any of this. And they have to reset and clean the set.
the whole thing.
Clean the whole thing. Because they kept fucking up trying to kill him.
Oh wait, so
with
when
the
you said
assassination.
they can't kill him, they literally could.
They couldn't. Because they would just, by the time they added so many blood packs, it would have been like he would have been just 2 legs. He wouldn't have had a torso because of how much damage they would have hypothetically had done to him.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Instead of just doing the stab, 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 and then him laying in a pool of blood with the dagger sticking out of his back.
That's hilarious.
Right? But they needed the hope of we have someone to return to.
I absolutely loved that scene. I think that scene also showed me that this movie is a lot deeper than it had any right to be.
Yeah.
Where, they had the king going like, fucking take your money. I don't give a shit about money. I don't care about any of that stuff.
You were brave enough to rob the scariest cult that has taken over
No
every
one's
major
willing to
city.
do
Also, thank you for taking care of that menace.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
one's
We're
willing to
knocking
do
them
that.
down a peg.
Right.
Yeah. I love the tension they build up. Like, do you know what you did? You made this guy come to me. He came and bothered me. He came and insulted me.
He made noise.
And you're sitting there going, oh, this king hates them. And then he goes, that was hilarious.
Save my daughter.
Yeah, now save my
fucking got
daughter.
him.
You fucking got it. And he's just like, thank you. It was so much fun to see this guy so pissed off.
Yep.
And it was so great. And
Because they thought they were untouchable.
they were thought they were untouchable. Yeah. I just loved I love that role. I thought it was fantastic. I love the take all the jewels you can carry, and they gives them each cups. And you're like, what are they going to do?
Well,
with the
because
cups?
they look like Jerry goes to take a sip and it's empty.
Yeah.
And like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on kind of thing?
Yeah, and then he pours out the goblet of jewels, and you realize like oh, he's not even doing like Christmas, like Halloween, like trick or treat, like with him.
No,
he's just like
taking
pouring it all
it.
over the
Wealth
ground.
is endless. I don't care.
Well,
Yeah.
you even were like, you said it was a great line when he's like, yeah, the gold loses its luster and all you care about is your kids. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care, but the throne room was more of a prison.
The throne room is more of a prison, and after all these years,
Yeah.
all that's left behind is the love of a father and his
And
daughter.
it's like, oh.
Because that's the themes of it, right? The first film, revenge. Second one, I believe, is loyalty. The third one's supposed to be family.
That
Like
makes
there was
sense.
a through line.
That makes sense. But it's just, I thought it was a great thing because to me, that immediately was, and I kind of know, I get the feeling like that. We have retrospective knowledge and we know Conan. It very much felt like this is also the tale of Conan.
Yeah.
One day,
Yes.
all of those riches, all that conquering will fade, and
Doesn't
all that will
matter.
matter is his kids,
Yeah.
or something like that. And it to
Or
me
his
was,
people.
or his people, yeah, whatever. And I thought that was just, this is almost a prophetic statement.
Yeah.
But it's also a driving force of the story. And I thought that was just a beautiful, well said, well scripted, and well moment scene. It was just beautiful.
Ate it up. What's interesting is they introduced Von Sydow and James Earl Jones, and you have a young actor or wannabe actor like Arnold Schwarzenegger being like, okay, you're in a scene with each of these guys. Learn, dance. We're going to do
Yeah.
as many takes as we need till you get it right
Yeah.
to learn out these steps. So we have our quest. We exit the first act of the movie.
First of 5 acts? Is that how acts
5
work?
acts of this film. Do you want to take a quick ad break?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's take a quick ad break.
Ba-da-cha.
Welcome back, everybody. Adam, Conan the Barbarian. They have their quest, pockets full of gold, or rubies at this point, and gems.
Mm-hmm.
Valyria begs and pleads
Don't do
for
this.
Conan not to do it.
It's not worth
It'll
the
be
money.
the death of everyone, and you do not want to attack the serpent.
Take the money, go home.
Yep. We can
And
live
then
on.
he takes off.
And then he does what he has to do.
He's like, okay, that's your wish. I'm going to go then.
Yeah, he left her with a pile of
Riches.
gems and left her with the necklace and said, peace out. This is, it's clearly a sign of he is a man driven.
Yep.
And he hasn't learned that his drive has consequences. And it sounds like he's just that kind of guy that just can't stop. He's just a bowling ball going through the world. He's whatever purpose he's got, he's going to get it done no matter what.
Yeah.
And this kind of also proves that and shows that.
Yeah. In which case, we travel on and we meet Uncle Ira.
Ah,
Or
The Wizard of the
Haku?
Mountains.
if you're nasty, it's a coup.
Haku. If you're nasty, it's Haku. The Wizard of the Mountains.
I can still do the Samurai Jack intro, and I know that voice
Yeah.
like the back of my hand.
He
So
was
iconic.
great. He was giving, like I mentioned during the movie, like he was giving like 120%. Like he was calm because he's been doing the voiceover the whole time,
Yes.
calling Conan my
We
master.
meet our narrator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the narrator, kind of pulling all of this together. And then it's funny because you hear him narrating as arguably probably an older character at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's already happened to him, but him as an unhinged wizard on the ocean is just so funny.
It's
He's
hilarious.
great.
It's a
He's
great
such a
role.
good actor.
He plays a great role because there is like that he's going to become a friend,
Yep.
like because he says this is where I meet my master, and he kind of intros that, and then he just sort of comes out of the curtain like wild hands, and you're like, whoa,
It's like,
You've been
whoa.
alone for a long time because they just start laughing at each other, and then he's introduced as the lore keeper, a
Yeah.
bit of information, a bit of history of the realm and the lands. You get this huge graveyard and ritual stones with propped up skeleton dummies.
What a scene.
Dressed in armor, where we're all like, are they gonna fucking fight the skeletons? Are we about to get a big
We
old skelly
wanted
fight?
The skeleton fight. That
We
never
want get those skeletons out of your closet. Give them a sword and an axe and a shield, and give them some pants at least.
I
Please.
want some
And
Army of
have
the
them-
Dead.
Have them fight. Have them
happened. I
fight,
know,
Conan.
right? Yeah.
I want some Army of the
I
Dead.
want to hear xylophone sounds every time a skeleton gets hit by a fucking sword.
Scary, spooky
It
There it
looks
is.
more to the lore of the land, being like, yeah, these are the giants built this monument. So it kind of goes to the beginning with the steel and
This old the
the history. Yeah.
Right, and how this new religion has crept in.
Mm-hmm.
Conan sees hippies, tells them to fuck off.
There was a particularly strong theme against hippies. I
Californian
felt in
hill
this.
hippies.
California hill hippies.
Yeah.
And then Conan bravely and stupidly goes to scout out the area with his little tent and some flowers. Right?
I
He's
love
like,
that.
fuck it, I'll do this mission by myself.
I did not expect a cult infiltration scene or whatever in Conan the Barbarian.
And he brings the stolen artifact.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, I've got the stolen artifact. It's me. I'm here to infiltrate.
I honestly
here.
thought that was going to be like, he thought that was like a badge to show the legitness of him.
Right.
Like I don't think he was smart enough.
What's missing? This thing.
I don't think he
here.
thought it really through that it was bad to have that. And he got through. If you can imagine D&D, he rolled a lot of deception checks or sleight of hand or persuasion checks.
Yeah.
Until the last guard that alerted the henchman.
I just felt
I think they were onto him. Before.
Yeah, I think the whole time it did just feel like he was just meandering, like he was just handing this off. I made the joke when we were watching it. It felt like the Fifth Element, like, multi-pass. He just kept showing it to people like, I don't give a shit.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely the multi-pass scene.
Or look how important I am. I have this artifact. Let me through.
Well, you don't have the green rock.
You
weren't at the tower that got attacked with the giant dead snake with the head. The tail is still writhing, and there's a sacrifice with broken legs. She's still screaming. You don't have that. You don't have the rock.
I think she did break her. Like I think the character broke her.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
She'll never walk again.
I just thought it was funny that he just kept, and everyone kind of looked at it like, okay, until one guy he finally handed it to go up the stairs, and then it was great because in the rear you see the princess doing her like
Snake
I'm showing
ritual.
off snake thing, showing off to everyone. You see in the mid ground, Conan kind of finding his spot in the crowd.
Yeah.
So you're kind of traveling him, and then you see the guard in the background of fort
Moving.
like moving. And you're like, what's going on? He's moving with
gonna go.
purpose.
Yeah.
For the audio listeners, there's a giant temple built out of the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Really
With
cool.
huge stairs.
with
like
huge stairs. Sorry,
and-
we forgot that point.
Yeah, that's true. It's important. And I just really loved the cinematography of seeing the princess, seeing Conan, and as they cut through different scenes, they see the guard traveling.
Well,
and
even
like,
the angles. You get the size and the depth of how many people are there.
Yeah.
It's massive. It's a massive gathering.
it's great. This movie, the cinematography was probably better than I ever thought this movie could be, and it's better than much cinematography even today.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
So we get to another moment and another movie reference where we get James Earl Jones and Conan confronting for the second time,
Technically.
Yeah,
if you consider the first time when they were their kids.
we learn the riddle of steel.
Yeah.
With you yelled out, "This is so midsummer." As James Earl Jones simply tells Conan, "I was a younger man and I was here to conquer. And now that I've taken the land, I needed to win the people.
Yeah.
And instead of being a ruler, I became a religion."
Well, this is how strong flesh is. And then he asked the girl to come forward, and she literally just blindly walked off the edge of a mountain and fell through like panels of wood and died. And he's like, that's true power, not your sword. That.
Yeah,
It's
great.
like,
scene.
oh God, that is creepy.
Yeah, the power of the cult. So there is Doom. Literature,
Not Victor Von Doom.
There is Doom. Right?
Thulsa Doom.
Thulsa Doom. You know what? There's Tharizdun from D&D and the Eldritch Terror, and there is Thulsa Doom. Salsa Doom. Extra spicy. Literature's first lich.
Is he a lich?
He's a lich?
He's not undead. He's not a lich.
Ladies, gentlemen, please, let me take you on this journey.
All right, strapping myself in.
Strap yourself in. Thulsa Doom is technically a Crawl the Conqueror villain. The exile of Atlantis.
Okay.
Oh.
That is where he originated in Robert E. Howard's stories. There is a cat and a skull story that came out. And so Thulsa Doom is technically, it is the skull face is the first lich within the cat and the skull, a Crawl villain.
That's why you hid away that picture from me when we were quickly looking at stuff.
Because it literally links to the history of liches, be bitches on beaches.
Spooky bitches.
Spooky bitches, spooky liches, not tipping their waitresses. Straight out.
Oh.
Robert E. Howard created liches. It wasn't Tolkien with Saruman coming back as the evil necromancer.
Yeah.
Thulsa Doom is technically Skullface. They reworked it as a Conan villain later on in different books because those universes can collide.
Yeah.
So Crawl, the Conqueror, runs into Conan at some point because he is an exile of Atlantis and the world map is all the same. And they're both after this guy. At this point, Thulsa is incredibly injured, and now it looks like Skeletor. Which brings us back to there is no He-Man or Masters of the Universe, which is another show we did on Raised by Spoilers. Yes. You can check that out.
Oh, shit.
Without Conan the Barbarian.
Yes.
Robert E. Howard touched everyone. And we just didn't know it.
Now that you say it, I do see all the through lines, especially with He-Man.
Yeah.
And without He-Man, you don't get a lot of Saturday morning stuff.
Don't get a lot of any of that. That's why we're here, folks.
Oh, nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, it was all connected. It was always all connected. Yeah, seriously.
I mean, they censored Rihanna's like Illuminati symbol during the Super Bowl.
So what I will simply say is there is it's like, break out the yarn and the newspaper clippings. You can go on a Wikipedia ride or just read some of Robert E. Howard's greatest hits or the collection, because I'm pretty sure it's relatively cheap on Amazon. But I encourage everyone to get into some weird tales and some weird science. Conan is crucified to
Literally.
a fucking tree.
Tree of woe.
He's like, crucify him. I'm like, oh, they're going to tie him up.
All right, yeah, whatever.
And then, like, I think it cut to the scene where they showed the nail in his wrist.
Yeah.
I think I
The
blurred up like,
tree of woes.
holy shit, they actually nailed him.
They crucify him to the tree
Also,
of woes.
I don't know if he would have been able to. Oh no! After that, he went to the wizard. Never mind.
Yeah.
Jumping ahead.
Yeah. That was I've never seen that artwork, if that does exist in Frank Frazetta's artwork library.
I don't think the Tree of Woes exists.
That wasn't a reference.
It
no.
wasn't.
Like
That was beautiful.
Reaper
her with the
Miniatures
snake
sells a
sword.
model of that.
Does it?
It's fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really
It
nice.
is a beautiful tree, beautiful scene with the birds on
Yeah.
top. Oh, it was so beautiful.
Yeah, it's wild. The then Arnold Schwarzenegger starts hallucinating, and a vulture attacks him. In which case, the vulture is a puppet or a dummy that is now picking at his shoulders, and Arnold Schwarzenegger leans in because they used dead vulture parts to stimulate a live vulture. So he attacks this bird, spits it out, and at that point, doctors and physicians and veterinarians rush in to be like, you have to drink this, you have to rinse your mouth out with soap, take these pills, like pretty much like rabies.
Yeah.
Because there is such a disease with these animals that he's like, oh yeah, it was something I didn't want to keep doing takes of.
Sure.
Being like up on the air and attacking this bird puppet and also spitting out dead bird feathers and shit.
Yeah, that was messed up.
And then his buddy, bro of the year, comes to save him.
What I thought was funny, whereas he's seen him running in the dunes, and he's like, "Yeah,"
he's laughing,
and then he looks, and it's like, "Oh," and then he comes back, and you're like, "Yeah,"
because it's an hallucination. But
Yeah,
it isn't
well, I
a
think
hallucination.
he just is going. He was up on a hill, then he went down, and then he popped back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Like it seemed like a hallucination. Then you're like,
Also,
yeah.
I took it as Conan thought he was hallucinating when he saw his
Yeah.
friend, so he started laughing like,
Yeah.
"Well, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
fuck it,
Yeah.
I'm done." And then so he disappears down underneath like the valley of the dunes, I
Yeah.
guess you could call it. And he just keeps laughing. He's like, "Yep, that makes sense." And then he kind of passes out, and then his buddy shows up over the hill, and we as viewers, oh, that wasn't a hallucination.
yeah. But for a second, you're like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, it was great.
So, go ahead. No, please. I'm talking.
My question involves the next scene. So.
Oh, the next scenes. Okay. So Conan is rescued and dragged back to the wizard, and the party regroups.
Yep.
Yeah.
In which case, give me your questions.
Okay. At this part, they wrap him. They put all like the ritualistic stuff on him. Do you think he died and they just didn't let his, or do you think they were letting him heal and they just kept his spirit tied to his body so that it wouldn't dissipate?
I think he was pretty close to death at that point.
I took it as he was basically going to die, and they wrote all of the writings on him to keep his spirit in his body, right? So his body, because I'm assuming these spirits don't show up to get everyone. I'm assuming your spirit just leaves your body, and so they wrote all like the cartography or whatever on his body to entrap the spirit in there, so that he had longer chance to heal. And then we knew, oh, the spirits are going to come and take this because they're not happy with it, and you have to fight them off. So I always took it as he didn't technically die. He just he was about to, but they forced it to keep his spirit in his body.
So the tattooing or the inking of the skin to paint on the symbols is actually heralds from Japanese cultures and customs.
Okay.
In which case, to repel the spirits.
So they were protecting him.
So he had to heal himself. He was not dead.
He had to rest. He was at the edge of death and dehydration and starvation. In which case he did all of the markings to ward off evil and ward off death. In which case that's why they climb on top of him to hold the body down. Instead of the spirit leaving the body, the spirits are entering to take the body.
Yes.
Instead of Conan's energy leaving, you know what I mean? So he has.
So my ideology is pretty accurate.
Pretty close on, except where they just tie him up and he's flopping around like a flag in the wind,
like a sail in the wind. Okay, it wasn't that violent. It
was pretty good. You can imagine people pulling strings as Arnold's jump like rocking around.
It's just I loved the direction of that scene. Like, you know that behind the scenes you're fighting invisible guys. You're fighting invisible guys. So they're just flailing.
Oh, she doesn't know what she's swinging at.
She doesn't know what she's swinging at.
And there's two teams of people
pulling the body to lift the body up and down.
Oh my god.
Oh, that was great. It was clearly, it was so good. Like, I loved the ideology of the scene, but it visually was a bit like, ooh, this is a bit rough.
Well, it also kind of tries to introduce what are the rules of death to this world.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine in the stories, at some point, somebody dies, and they're like, okay, we have to bring him back.
Yeah.
There needs to be resurrection magic. If magic doesn't exist here, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And we need to defy the gods or defy the underworld.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
And I do like it at this moment, they make it very clear there is a cost to this, to this betrayal of life and death.
You don't get to play.
Well, she made that pact, being like, hey, somebody has to pay, and she's like, I'll do anything.
Yeah, you don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
But you know it's something.
She's like, I will pay the price. And he's like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
But you have to be the one to fight. You have to be with the one with him.
Yeah.
You have to be the one to put him, shepherd him back in.
Yeah.
Wow. Heavy stuff for this movie. Heavy stuff for this movie.
Way deeper than it has any right to be.
Conan shakes off.
Which, by the way, at this point,
fate.
I think for the first time, like, okay, this is Act 3 now.
All right, we're at the end of the movie.
Was the first Act 3.
It was the first time I'm like, all right, Act 3. You had your Act 2 after he grew up in slavery and got into that, and then this was like, okay, he tried to fight the boss and failed. This is Act 2 going to Act 3. Like, this is clearly how this works.
Conan and party now all try to infiltrate through the kitchen, the backside of the mountain, into a torture chamber where they are making soup.
Yeah, that wasn't obvious enough to us.
No, I thought it was not what it was. I'm like, oh, they preluded to, like, the pigs were going through the like the town. They were trying to usher pigs up into the mountains and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, I thought they're all pigs.
Not the case.
In which case they have blurry, red, foggy, and steamy torture chamber where you have giant plastic bodies oiled up, flopping around. And I think the reason why it looked the way it did was to try to get the rating, like keep the rating to a point where you didn't actually see like people getting arms and legs cut off and thrown in. And
it was a lot of like props.
Yeah.
But they were like hung upside down, so it looked at
like
a distance. Like meat hooks. It looked like at a distance like pig.
Yeah.
And so I just went, okay, I didn't think about it too very far. And then you were like, no, Adam, look deeper. Those are humans. That's a human.
That's a butt and a boob.
Hey, it's a butt and a boob. And I looked at closer and went, oh my God, that is a butt. And sir, that is a boob.
And then we're like, holy shit, they're either sacrificing people to the snakes or they're sacrificing them to eat in like this weird sloppy green soup.
Yeah.
Jambalaya.
I'm sure it tastes like mint. I'm just going to assume that.
Absolutely. It's all cilantro. It's just a big bowl of hot cilantro
to a
and
few
flesh.
people, that would be more disgusting than human.
Hot cilantro flesh
If you're the
soup.
10% of people that cilantro tastes like soap.
So we get into this very hot, oily orgy pit.
What a pit. What a scene.
Actually, I was expecting more orgy from that pit.
I think the sweet spot was trying to keep either A, the romance to a minimum,
Sure.
and B, the nudity to an acceptable amount.
Like the
where it
Barbarella
wasn't-
orgy pit was definitely
Right.
more
Yeah.
writhy.
Yeah, but I think
Right.
I think the difference is too though is you get a bunch of people in like fabrics moaning
Yeah.
versus like they walk in and everybody's fucking.
Yeah.
You don't get that
isn't
like
a real put your keys at the door
You
kind
all
of thing.
you're all having so much sex. We figured you'd need to rehydrate and eat flesh.
See,
so
what I got out of this, and I didn't.
yeah.
What I got out of this was it's retrospective knowledge.
Yeah.
After they showed off Thulzan Doom's kind of transformation, was it mimicked more snakes climbing on top of each other, like a group of
They
snakes on the
do
ground.
that.
Yes.
It was a little bit more writhing in that way, and then there's the one chick in the
Okay.
center, but that's fine. But
Yeah.
it felt more once you saw Thulzan Doom turn into the snake. I then went, oh, I thought about it more. But those are supposed to be like snakes
high
writhing.
enough level of the cult that they will either be sacrificed or become snakes themselves.
Yeah.
Because he is
I was
injecting
not
his power.
expecting him to be like when it cut back to him transforming, and then it cut back to him having like snake eyes. We're all like, whoa! And then it cut back to him just full snake.
So they took a latex mask and they just kept pushing a snake head through it.
Yeah.
Further
Okay.
and further and further.
I was wondering how they did that.
Yeah, I was hoping the transformation would be a bit smoother, but whatever.
It was only like his hands went away, and then he was snake.
Well, you got to remember too, right? American Werewolf hasn't come out yet.
Oh yeah.
So American Werewolf from London does the werewolf transformation.
Wait, have you seen that?
You have seen it. You watched it at my house on Halloween one night. We were all really drunk.
I'll believe you.
All right. American Werewolf from London does the werewolf transform in one like practical take.
And it was like it changed.
There's a couple shots where it's
special
his
effects.
hands and his legs and stuff, but like you get that face where they built the entire body as an animatronic. So when his face pulls out, the first latex rips.
Oh, I do
and
remember
it's
this
bloody,
scene. Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's the wolf, and then it's
Yes,
like it's
I
like
do
we're
remember
gonna
that
just
scene.
slowly build it out with robots. But that was also, I want to say 5-6 years later kind of thing.
I
So
see,
it's
I
like
see.
where you want to spend that money? Do
But
you want
this
to have
was-
a really cool snake scene that's horrifying, or do you want to have a giant castle built out of the side of a mountain?
Yeah, this was one thing it was at this point in the movie also where I went, oh, this is getting wild.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh, it's just a revenge story about a guy who went to being a conqueror is a conqueror, but not of steel, but as of minds and hearts. Fine, whatever. I understood that. And then it's like, he's a snake. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
He's literally a
is the
giant
demigod.
snake.
Like it's not the
man.
snake that they killed, because he's like, I think it was Thorgrim. He's like, you made him upset. He cried for days. He raised that snake from a baby, when all the imagery is actually him,
Yeah.
not the giant snake in the temple.
Yeah, they do kind of make you show that off like a bait and switch type
Yeah.
of thing. Which I thought was really good.
Yeah.
So then we get to the fight.
So we
scene.
get the princess out.
You were
they
talking
all go to hell.
Yeah.
They all fight in the orgy pit, and everybody dies.
Everything's on fire.
Everything's on fire. Everyone's greasy.
Okay,
There's
I
a
also have to
giant
mention-
pool of flesh, cilantro soup getting spilled everywhere. It's
I
awful.
do love that when he pulls over the bowl,
The cauldron thing?
cauldron thing. That the only thing they didn't like disintegrate into the soup was hands. So it's a soup with a bunch of hands.
No, there was a head in there too.
Was there?
in the
Yeah,
bottom,
a
yeah, the
head.
bottom.
I didn't
But
notice
you
that.
pointed out that it took like 4 people to carry that in, and he just was like, boop.
Arnold Schwarzenegger goes in and picks it up, no
It's
problem.
like a giant cast iron pot.
Yeah.
Awful.
It cracks the pillar, and that's how like heavy it is. Like
That was
that puts
great.
the first crack in that pillar.
I love that. They put the first crack, and then as he's fighting I just call them the brothers. I feel like I want to call them the brothers.
Hammer and steel.
Rexor
Yeah.
and Thorgrim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they're hitting every once in a while, they'll cut to, he goes to swing the hammer to hit Conan, and instead it hits the pillar, and you see they stick to the statue a bit, and
Yeah.
it cracks a little bit more. Then
Yep.
it cracks a little bit
Yep.
more, and they do another fight scene. Someone hits it again, it cracks a little bit more
Yep.
until eventually it comes
The
down.
whole pillar comes down and shakes the place.
Yeah, I was expecting it to kill someone, but I do love the scene where it falls, and it's like the two brothers just kind of look down and go, oops.
Like
I wish it did
he
kill
looked
someone.
at his hammer like, did I do that?
Yeah. I wish it did.
I wish it
shoulda.
did, because then it would have given more of a you killed my brother, and realistically the guy with the hammer
Yeah.
would, no, you killed him with, it was an accident, you killed him with the pillar.
Yeah.
And then we have the villains now, it makes it personal for the hunt for Conan.
Yes.
Instead of just we're hunting him because he's attacked us a couple times and he stole a political pawn.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Right.
Completely agree with you.
But that's also one more spinning plate in this movie.
Ah.
That's one more spinning plate that it's like, do we need it? And
I
does
think
it
they
need to
needed it.
exist? Yeah.
I think they needed
I think it would have worked.
Because it would have just been that, and then it would have been one line later when he's got the dad's sword.
Right.
And they're fighting. And at that scene, they wouldn't have had the second brother during that fight. They're not brothers, but I just call them.
Sure.
They feel like two brothers.
They feel like brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They feel like brothers. And you'd been like, this is for blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's all you needed was that line. It kind of felt completed. And it was a little mini wee arc.
Yeah. Of, oh no, there's emotions there.
But I think you needed them both in that final confrontation.
You kind of did.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was good. It was a very interesting scene. Every time we got to like another act, and then they didn't actually
It keeps
Thor
going.
Doom.
Yeah.
It keeps going. I'm like, oh, they didn't kill Thor Doom in his own lair. Oh, that's interesting. And then I did love that when they brought him back, because he kind of snuck away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And just before all the action started, and then he came back, and it was like it kind of reminds me of that Community scene where Abed or what I forget, someone comes back and everything's on fire.
Oh,
And he's
yeah.
got the pizza boxes. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And I did like the fact that they didn't make him kind of the Skeletor. They'd be like, I will get you, Conan.
Right, yeah.
He's just like, that's fine.
Okay.
He will know
Yeah, I'm coming
why
I don't
he
think he
fears
would-
the night.
Yep.
I don't think he would ever show like that he's rattled.
No.
Like,
No, I think that was the point of weakness for him. If
rattled. Sorry, snake pun. Didn't
Oh.
mean to do that.
Oh, right.
Like,
right.
you know, he doesn't want to show his people that he's like, oh fuck. They took my wife. They like disrupted my home. Now we have to go get them.
I don't think he ever was rattled because by a combination of I understood that he was beyond that at this point. He truly believes himself a god.
Yeah, he's trying to ascend.
Yeah.
He's trying to ascend. He truly believes himself a god or about to be or something like that. Way beyond human needs. Also, now that you kind of add this extra backstory to him, he's 1,000 years old or however old he is. This is nothing. This is a Tuesday.
Yep.
He's just doing this for fun because he's got nothing to do for this century.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
So then we get to snake arrows.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And Valera
he
dies.
straightens out the snake, and we're like, no.
No,
And then he just
no.
we're like, stop. And then it's like, seek. And then it shoots her right through the torso.
Yeah.
Which is brutal.
Yeah. And they go to try to pull it out, and Arnold pulls the snake out of his pants. And it's like, it's a straight arrow because you can tell Arnold's holding the head and pulling the snake to try to keep it straight.
Yeah.
The way his hands are, he's trying to keep it as straight as possible.
But
and as
snakes
soon
don't want to be
they don't want to
straight.
be straight, and then it just kind of snaps back to being a slithering serpent, and it's like, oh man, could you imagine trying to pull like a worm out of you or anything like that? That's awful.
I thought I think that's great. I think it shows that he's a weird magician of weird magic.
Yeah.
Which is why it was very acceptable because they'd just shown him become a snake.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, if
Anything's
that's on the
possible.
table, this is
Anything's
easy.
possible at this point.
Yeah, like he can control snakes in a way.
Yeah, and it made total sense. And I did like that the moment they tried to pull the snake out, it became softer.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, someone thought of this. They didn't just pull out a hard snake prop.
Right.
I thought that was a really good touch.
Well, and they don't lean into it too much, right? Like he's not pulling swords out of his belt, and as soon as they drop him, they turn into snakes. Like it's not He-Man or like G.I. Joe puns of snakes.
Yeah.
At this point, Valera dies. Conan builds a pyre and does the Viking funeral for her.
But they do add the, they say it twice. There's no fire.
The gods have cursed this place, and wind and fire. The wind always blows out.
Yeah, the fire will never be allowed here. No fire can take purchase.
Right.
And yeah.
Conan at this point defies the gods
Yeah.
and lights her pyre.
Yeah.
And then at that point, they have the kidnapped princess, and they prepare. They prepare for fucking war.
I will say
and
this
it's
is
like,
the-
let's go. And now we enter the third act.
The actual third
The
act.
actual
This is
third
the point
act.
where his schooling, because I didn't say it out loud, but especially that one trap, the spring trap with the spike.
Yeah.
I'm like, how much engineering had to have gone into that?
Yeah, but
like he's very smart if he can like figure out like, hey, that's a trajectory. I got to do this. I got to do this.
It makes sense.
It was cool.
None of this, it was weird that all the weird campiness, none of it felt unbelievable for this
No.
universe.
Yeah, it all felt logically like doable.
Like you laughed. We laughed at the snake.
Yep.
We were just unbelieving that these people chose to make this spell or this
Yeah.
ability, this
Yep.
ability. But at no point did we think that's ridiculous. We thought that's hilarious. That's unexpected because that's
Yep.
really where comedy comes from
Yep.
is unexpectedness. But at no means did we go, that's stupid.
Yeah.
We went, that's amazing.
And
Yeah.
you made the comment that this is a scene that we wish we had in Pathfinder
Right.
of setting the trap.
yeah.
Yeah. They take 2 minutes. I think that the thing is what this film does so well is it does give moments of breath and levity, right? We're talking about comedy. We're talking about serious moments. We're talking about moments where Conan is preparing for war, preparing the traps, digging. We watched
for Helm's Deep.
We watched fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger dig a hole. We were like, yep, okay, dig that fucking hole, Arnold. Like, let's go. We watched Arnold eat bread and drink beer and then dunk his face in a bowl of gray liquid.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh yeah, you drank yourself silly and now you're drunk and poor and you have to go out and back to adventuring. Because we see these quiet moments and these intimate moments where these characters do, we believe as an audience that they do give a shit about each other.
Yeah.
And we all of a sudden now are like, fuck, she dies. Oh no. Like, we want these people to be okay. We want to see what their next adventure is.
But she had to pay the price.
She does.
from
The bill
saving
always
him.
comes due.
Yeah.
The bill always comes due.
I loved it. I love, you know me, I love my Chekhov's gun. It's
Yeah.
my favorite
Yeah.
favorite thing to use. I love something being said and then it being acted on later.
Yeah.
It's a good fulfillment. And I very much enjoy that. So I did enjoy that. I'm like, oh, she
I
died.
can't wait for you to watch the second one. Because
It sucks.
it's not that it's bad. It's just a very different movie.
Okay.
It's a very different movie. So they go to war. We have the big climax. All the traps are sprung. Horses fall down bamboo shoots, hills.
They're getting ready for the big boss fight.
They're, what is it? Salsa Doom? Salsa Doom shoots a snake arrow trying to kill the princess. And at this point, it doesn't happen.
Well,
Conan
'cause-
is about to get his head cut off. And the Valkyrie, Valyria,
She looked cool.
comes in, saving the day.
Like, do you want to live forever?
Do you want to live forever?
Yeah.
There's a place for you. Like, that is Crom saying, hey, be strong.
Well, because
fight.
for a moment he lost his faith in
Faith.
Crom.
Right. And we have Conan confront his tormentors.
Yeah.
Or half of the tormentors.
The Brothers Grimm.
The Brothers Grimm. Hammerman gets spring trapped. And football player Rexor gets fucking the sword broken. Conan breaks his father's sword, swinging twice as hard, almost chopping him in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's brutal. And we have this moment of where you gasp, and you're like, why did he break his sword? And it's like, I think it's just the symbolism of his past and moving forward.
I was expecting 100% for the plot of the movie to be he gets his father's sword right near the end and then kills the villain with
Right.
it. I mean, that was still fulfilled.
Still, technically, was what happened.
It was what happened,
Yeah.
but just the breaking of the sword, I'm like, oh, that means he's not. Like, my brain immediately went to, okay, that did, like, it. Though they spent all this time building up the sword and how awesome it is.
Yeah.
And then he just breaks it with this random sword he found. It.
Well, the magic Atlantean sword, in which case proving that Conan doesn't need.
Sure, but it doesn't have like the story arc of
True.
it's your father's sword. So, you know what I mean?
True.
Story wise, it's not as powerful.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a really weird choice. I still think it's a weird choice, but I'm not, because he still used it to kill the villain. I accept your statement very well of it's him destroying the chains of his past.
Yeah.
And yet he still gets to use it to kill and get revenge.
Right.
So I went, you know what? That works out. It still plays out and is still successful in that storytelling way.
Yeah. And then Thulsa Doom retreats.
Now we go into act
Now,
three.
welcome,
Runs away.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third act. Welcome back to the third act. Thulsa Doom flees back.
And the princess helps Conan infiltrate the temple.
Yeah, because Thulsa Doom tried to kill her.
Yeah.
And
So
she's like, oh,
Fuck you.
Fuck you. You try to kill me. They saved me. We're done.
yeah.
In which case, Conan enters through the back door again and confronts Thulsa Doom in front of all of his followers.
Yeah.
At this point, Thulsa Doom fully believing he has reached godhood and about to unleash his followers and cultists on the world. Because his speech, if you actually go back and listen to it, is pretty dark. Where like, we will wash over and we will cleanse
Yeah.
the land, and we are going to build temples in every town, and we are going to fucking
Yeah.
convert. And
They
We
were
will
like-
be like the water that cleanses.
We are going to burn, or we are going to cleanse, or we are going to burn everything down.
Yeah.
And everyone's got torches, and you don't know whether they're all going to kill themselves, or they're like, all right, here's the final mission. All of you are indoctrinated. Now go and spread it like a disease.
Yeah.
And worship me like a god and have every square inch of this land worship me like a god, or there is only death.
Yeah.
And in which case Conan steps in. Thulsa Doom James Earl Jones gives this beautiful performance of back and forth where and that's the thing, like there's not a lot of dialogue.
No.
And James Earl Jones almost confronts him and says, who would you be without all of your anger, your aggression,
who would you be
and
without
your strength? And who would you be without me? I'm the reason you exist.
Who would you be without purpose, without challenge, without reason, without cause?
Right.
Who are you? I gave you the determination you needed to live in this world.
Yeah.
Who are you without me? You are nothing.
And it is
you kill me, what are you going to do with your life?
I think he pissed him off because he called him his son a few times.
Too many times.
I almost wish he was like, "You're not my father." Like that would have been too on the nose. Like you are not my father. And then but I get it because it's like no, like you made me in a way circumstantial, but I have now risen above that.
Yeah, I am not a weapon. I am a man. I am bigger than blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I am more than revenge.
I am more than revenge. I am more than what you strive to be.
Yeah.
Yes. I did like the moment where Conan, he says that to Conan, like, what will you become without me? What happens after this?
Right.
And Conan kind of looks down, Conan's really boggled. This is boggled his mind.
You are hitting him on a intellectual level that he is not prepared
Yeah.
to talk about.
And he's just sitting there, and you feel no threat of Conan's health at that point because you realize he is stronger than this character. Yeah. But there is still it's still a moral thing. Will he kill him? He probably will kill him. You recognize that. But how damaged will Conan be from this? Will he become the next monster because he's just a beast?
Yep.
No, this kind of shows, no, I'm better than that. I'm
better
stronger.
than that.
He doesn't have to say anything. He just does actions to show it.
And then we get the evisceration of Thulsa Doom.
More than just one swing, too.
Like 1, 2, 3, his head comes lobbing off. I kind of wish that his body exploded into smaller snakes. I honestly wish like it was like boom, boom, and then like you see they shaved his head, it was a wig, and then he drops, and it's just snakes. And it's like, he gets away.
See, that's what I was saying. To me, it would have the feeling of getting away, which ruins the whole
the payoff
thing. The payoff.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't intend it to be he didn't get away, he just, his spirit dissipated and he was controlling all these snakes. No, as watchers, you'd still think, he still got away. The snakes will reform.
What if he just threw a handful of snakes at Arnold Schwarzenegger instead, though? Like he's about to go and stab him, and he just throws snakes at him. And it's like, whoa, fuck.
No, I kind of like the way
spaghetti.
they did it because I like that Thorm Dune is like, I don't care. I'm beyond life and death.
Right.
Go ahead, kill me. Like
Strike me down, I will come back.
Yeah, he's just so beyond it. He doesn't fight back. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
I kind of like that take on this villain. He wasn't a physical thwart for Conan. Those were the other characters.
Right.
He's the intellectual, theological thwart for Conan.
You think this is going to stop me?
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
Well, because he died thinking his followers would avenge him. But then what happened was he threw the head down. They seen that he was mortal.
Just a man.
And then they start throwing their torches in. And they were like, well, I'm done. But I think he was
going back to working at Wendy's.
He thought his followers were so loyal. But without him, it's nothing.
Oh my God. I don't know why I struggled. So I always took this as Conan also learning the weakness of steel and learning the value of friendship, you know what I mean? The
friendship was the answer, folks.
Friendship was the answer.
Conan the Barbarian.
Flesh was stronger through his friends.
Yeah.
But you almost kind of did another thing where he showed that steel by the sword with Doom is stronger.
Right.
Yeah, because everyone will be like, oh yeah, like I'll worship you, but when you are gone,
when the steel takes you out.
left.
When the idea fades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it like just like a flame.
That's why I think he was so arrogant, thinking that everyone there would avenge him.
So, do you think the moral? Now we got to ask the question.
Now we're getting into it. I've got to ask to Raised by Spoilers, everyone. This is the third act.
I've got to ask this deep question. Do you think the moral? Because obviously there is the what is stronger, the flesh or the steel?
Right.
What do you think was the movie's intended answer to that question? What did you get out of that?
Well, at the end of it, the steel thwarted the flesh in a way.
I think the flesh.
See, and I took it as flesh.
I think it's flesh.
And I think we got a different view of Thorm Doom doing the evil version of the flesh is powerful, but Conan's true, the flesh is more powerful, is friendship and relationships.
Because his buddies come to save him. His love interest holds him down and defies death. There is the
Yeah.
wizard doing whatever he did in the movie. But he was delightful, and I want more of him.
Yeah.
It was the story of endurance. It was Conan's drive of flesh. The sword did nothing for him. In fact, he loses multiple weapons in this movie until he finally gets his magic sword.
It wasn't the sword, it was Conan.
Right.
Not only that, but the scene where he got rid of all of his friends, he tried to go, like,
Right.
he left his friends behind. He lost dramatically,
Right.
and it was his friends that saved him. The flesh, the loyalty.
Yeah, okay.
It was the
Yeah.
loyalty of his friends that saved him.
Right.
And it's proof that the flesh, but obviously Thorum Dune is a corrupt version
Right.
of the flesh is stronger.
Than
Yeah.
the steel. Yeah.
Shit, that's a deep fucking movie.
has
Great
no-
fucking movie, man. Conan the Barbarian.
No
Oh,
right
phenomenal.
being-
So good.
No right being as deep as it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, does Conan hold up?
I think so. Like, you could try to remake it, but I think trying to remake it, it would either be too serious or too much like a comedy.
The problem is they tried to do both, and Jason Momoa could not carry
Oh,
the
I
fucking
haven't
weight
seen
of
it.
Conan the Barbarian in the future films.
I did not see the modern
didn't either
ones.
one.
Pathfinder director later on moves on to direct Jason Momoa in fucking Conan the Barbarian, which Momoa had done Stargate Atlantis before.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he was more brooding and brooding, and
I
then
thought
he
they
would
did Conan after he did Game of Thrones.
Conan was before, and that's why he got picked up for Khal Drogo.
Oh, okay.
Because he would put on all of that weight, and he was in the best shape of his life at that point. And they're like, "Oh my god, that guy!" Martin had seen Conan because Railroad Martin is a Robert E. Howard fan.
Sure.
because of course he is, and went, "That's my Khal Drogo." Right? It's all sort of connected within the pools. Like, he's gone on to do bigger and better things if you count Aquaman, but the movie itself, the new one. Or the newer one doesn't necessarily know whether it wants to be a fantasy movie or a comedy or an action
See,
piece.
that's what I just
and
said.
it
Yeah,
kind of
I
falls
think
apart.
they would take this and see that it accidentally had the comedic moments, but it still kept the super serious aspect of it.
Well, that's the thing even with this film, right? Oliver Stone read the comics and was familiar with Robert E. Howard and said, no, this is a fantasy story, where John Miles loved a Viking film made in the 58, 59. It was just called Vikings, and wanted to make a period historical piece. And Stone and him constantly clashed, being like, that's not what this is. You can't make like a realistic, historically accurate, like Mongolian film. This is fantasy, man. You got to have like because people are going to go in because it's, look at it. It's visually stunning and it's beautiful, but there's not rules, but there's aspects of Conan that people expect.
Yep.
And that's the same thing with going back to Del Camp, taking the Frazetta books or taking the Frazetta prints with the covers and then tweaking it and modernizing the language, in which case people were like, this isn't the way Howard wrote it. Where the fuck is the original printing? Like, you guys went in with an editor and cleaned it up for 1970s wording, and that doesn't hold up. It's kind of more silly.
Yeah.
Which translates better into comic books. So
obviously, are you saying it did not hold up?
I don't know if you could
Like,
do it again. I don't know, because when you think
this
Conan the
holds up.
Barbarian, Arnold Schwarzenegger fucking crushes
See,
it. Like,
this version holds up. There's not too much wrong with it as far as like, you know, like the sexism of it and all that. Like,
that's
there's
also
a couple
Howard.
To me,
and
that's
it's
just a part of the
written in
world.
30s, and
There's
it's
I don't believe. Okay, I'm getting a bit of a hot take here. I
we
don't
go.
believe that movies and entertainment need to should shy away from questionable things. We should not shy away from viewing rape in a scene, and we shouldn't even necessarily always look at it as it always has to be evil, but we do because we all recognize it as bad.
yeah, it makes us all feel
It
uncomfortable.
makes us all feel uncomfortable. So when they show someone like Conan effectively light raping this girl, we get a sense of he's not a true pure hero, and that's good information to
Yeah.
tell us.
Right.
So I don't think we should shy away. I think it was good that it's in there because it showed us who this character was.
He showed a bit of humanity in that scene. And
but-
then it didn't happen again. It's not like they kept going back to it because every other female or every other woman was like ready and willing.
Yeah, I think for the sake of entertainment and artwork, it's okay to do it as long as it's valuable. It's like just having tits out.
As long as it's not a trope.
As long as it's not a trope. Yeah, you
Look
have
at
to
you,
have
Martin.
it has to have purpose, has to have meaning.
Yeah.
In this case, it had meaning because it showed us that while he is a air quotes hero, he is not a pure hero.
Right.
He's not the perfect, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think this holds up. I think you can show this to anybody nowadays and it'd be like, okay, yeah, this is a great movie. It's not like it is dated. But
it's definitely a movie from the 80s.
It definitely. I would say
early
it would
80s,
still
late 70s.
gain traction.
I think yes, it holds up, which is to say, obviously, I enjoyed it just as much today, and I think I enjoy it more as an adult than I would have as a kid, as I mentioned. I think its only weakness is obviously quality of the film, quality of the graphics, and maybe obviously some of the acting here and there.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But the truth is it's one of those things where it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
I can pretty much guarantee that if anyone attempted it, as we've proven with Jason
seen,
Momoa, they're unlikely. Like when a movie is 98% good, why are you remaking it for that extra 2%?
That's why I'm so nervous that they want to remake Barbarella.
That makes sense.
I don't know how that would go now.
I'll tell you, after seeing Ant-Man, it's a lot of CGI.
Yeah,
and a
it
lot
wouldn't
of,
have
like,
the
just
same
empty rooms.
feel, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I just don't think... I think this movie holds up exactly as it is. I think one day in a certain distant future when like this format of movie just is so unwatchable just because the quality is just so bad another 20 years or something, they might have to try and recreate it just to get that same 98% but in a newer age. But for now, no, I think don't touch it. I think it's a beautiful piece of artwork that needs to be where it is for a very long time, and any attempt you have to touch it will never hit the quality.
No.
Interesting.
You can't catch lightning in a bottle twice.
Exactly.
I think they've tried. I think Pathfinder, Conan the Barbarian, Jason Momoa.
Pathfinder was close.
I even referenced John Carter of Mars.
Yeah.
Prince of Persia. John Carter of Mars a little closer to that Robert E. Howard Weird Tales because John Carter of Mars was published in Weird Tales.
Yeah.
So there is that vibe of, man, John Carter's great, but it probably should have had 2 more movies, but it flopped.
It was a shitty movie.
It flopped. Well, some people like it. It's in that weird spot of cult movie for the people who read and grew up with John Carter.
Yeah.
Instead of Conan being like, this is dope, but that's John Carter. This is Conan.
Yeah.
I think it personally holds up. I think it's phenomenal. It's one of my favorite movies. It clearly inspired the jocks to get into fantasy.
Yeah.
And the nerdy kids to get into the gym.
Yeah.
It's a weird parallel. Before Game of Thrones, before God of War, there is a grit, a realism, even though it is such a fantasy world. Obviously, the sword and sorcery aspect has inspired genres, video games, role-playing games, everything for years to come. Which brings me to my next topic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a podcast within a podcast where we rank those eyebrows, we bridge those brows. Was there any sort of CGI, not CGI at this time, practical effect, prop, or scene that really, really jumped out at you? Doesn't necessarily have to be eyebrows. This is just kind of a highlight of the special effects team or VR
I would
artists.
say, and this is kind of like a bonus feature that I read about, was when he, at the end, when he was going to burn down the temple, he did the thing where he had the lantern and he was going and going and going. And when he threw it, he missed.
Of course.
He did miss.
How could you not miss that?
He missed because I think they were supposed to go like in the middle.
Yeah.
But he missed, but they could not redo it because it burnt to the ground.
Ah.
A crew was not up there to extinguish it.
Yeah.
They were so confident that he would get it that it went to the side and it caught fire, and that's just where they left it.
Oh, that's funny.
So that was, and then, I didn't realize they just burnt the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to take it apart and get it out of there.
No,
or
why
you
not
just burn it down.
burn it? Who cares about the ozone layer? Just burn the
It's
prop.
82.
They took their set, this temple on the side of a mountain.
They burnt the set down.
And they said, let's Burning Man this shit.
One
Burn it down.
take. You get one take to do this right because we're not going to pay someone up there with a fire extinguisher to put it out.
So they just went up there, doused it with gasoline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get one try.
You got one shot.
And he looks at it and
Mom's
he's like,
spaghetti.
I think you can see a little bit now, knowing that he.
Well,
he
he's
missed.
smiling and laughing because he
He's
fucked
like,
it up.
Fuck, but they kept it
Yeah.
because they could not physically do another retake.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that was some of my notable special effects where it was actually practical and they actually burnt it to the ground.
Beautiful.
That is impressive.
Adam.
For whatever reason, I don't know why. I maybe it's just because I'm a blue-blooded man, but I really, really was mesmerized by the princess's outfits,
Costume
design, and not just that, but like the way she was moving. Like she barely spoke a word, I think, at all throughout this entire thing. But every time she had like the snake arm, like I don't even know, like her cloak connected to her arms.
Her arms had the pattern
shawl?
of a snake.
The pattern of a snake. It was like a shawl.
It was like,
and she kind of did that with a snake, and I'm like, oh my god, this is beautiful. The cut lines for like to show off certain aspects of her body was beautiful. It was a Frank Frazetta painting, in real life. I'm like, wow, someone worked really hard on this costume design. She's wearing it like a princess.
Yeah.
This is fantastic, and it mesmerized me every time. I could not look away from it.
I think she was French,
what a babe.
so she might not have known too much. Like as Arnold, she might not have known English so well.
Maybe.
Her IMDb was just all French roles because she's from Paris.
That's true. But they had a lot of, good looking women, showing off their boobs.
Yep.
But she was the only one that
she was modest. The whole,
she was modest.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever showed her.
No, I don't think so.
But she's just the outfits she always wore just mesmerized me. Whether they did something for her shape, whether that's what it was, I don't know. I just could not. I just really enjoyed it. It looked like a Frank Frazetta painting to me, and I really enjoyed that.
Well, she's even chained up to the rock. And
just her in the background.
Like, there's moments where you're like, yep,
that's a painting.
That is it.
It was just really looked really good.
What's your favorite?
I really loved the Jaws mechanical snake. I think that the tower heist is such a iconic moment in the film, and that has been transitioned into so many RPGs and so many fantasy tropes. Of just break in, steal the thing. It's a cult, so what's the worst that could happen? Oh no, giant snake! And it's like it never got out of hand. And then you see Arnold get like thrown aside because he's trying to wrestle this giant animatronic. I honestly wish, I'm so happy that we were at a spot when the film came out that it wasn't computerized.
Yeah,
because it would have looked like shit.
Oh,
it
if it was
twice
made in
the
90s,
budget of the film,
it would have been terrible.
Well, even late, because you got to think like the owl from fucking Labyrinth. Like they were already trying to push CGI. So if they did a CGI snake, I think it wouldn't have held up as much. And I think it would have actually hurt the movie.
Yeah.
So the fact that the film itself, whether you see the blood packs explode out of these
totally
guys.
do sometimes.
Yeah, but it's fine. It's just a lot of blood. The use of practical effects, I think, what keep this movie so grounded and keep it timeless.
Yeah.
And you believe this is just this story within this fantasy world because they're fighting a giant rubbery lubed up snake instead of it just being this rubbery snake. It's greasy and slimy and awful because it's been slithering through these dirty tunnels, and you kind of buy in. Yeah. And it's wonderful. But yeah, the giant mechanical snake, what is it? The mechanical bull? The mechanical snake. The mechanical snake. I rode the mechanical bull or the mechanical snake in Conan the Barbarian. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the third act. Final thoughts.
I love this as a joke now.
I love this bit for this movie. Final thoughts. Nintendo Geek.
Well,
did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it?
I would say like it's like a high 8, just because of how influential it has been.
Yeah,
it continues to be. Like He-Man, like you said, like John or the Wow, I just blanked on
John Carter of Mars.
John Carter of Mars.
I was going to say John Carpenter. Yeah,
John Carpenter. Very different movie.
Usually, yeah.
You can definitely see where like the 80s muscle man.
Yeah.
And like even like the WWE like or F at the time wrestlers like just getting jacked. Like you can see where the muscle man really came into a big trope after this came out.
Remember though, we're talking about just Conan, not Arnold Schwarzenegger's personality being this huge thing, or Robert E. Howard's impression, or Frazetta's even thumbprint within the art scene.
And it was a good movie where I wasn't like, okay, like when is it going to end? It's like, holy crap, there's another scene. Like when is it? Like there's so much more story to tell, and they took their time. Like this could have been like a Flash Gordon where it's an hour and a half in and out, but they really fleshed out everyone's story and built up like the emotion behind everyone's motives. Like, I don't know. It was very good. Like,
holds up.
There was no character left unturned at the end.
Yeah.
And it was just really smart the way they did it. And I'm happy that they had a bigger budget. I'm happy that they took time.
Yeah.
Because most of the time in these movies, you expect them to be these just like, it's going to be just like a muscle movie. It's not going to be important.
Action set pieces.
Yeah,
Keep
it's
it
not
moving,
just
keep it
a
moving.
dumb action movie.
Yeah.
It's actually like full of a lot of smart choices
Yeah.
and character development and emotion.
So
Yeah, and everything was great. The props are great. The character design. The wardrobe.
how many skulls?
I would say an 8.
An
8 and a half.
8 skulls.
Yeah,
Eight and a
probably
half.
one of my highest.
Blood
yeah.
of your enemy.
Yeah, I'm
Feminist
really happy
warlord,
with this
yeah.
movie. Yeah, and even after seeing it now at least 2 or 3 times, still awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to check out Red Sonja.
Yeah.
We got to check out Red Sonja. The second, I will either leave you with Conan the Destroyer because it's worth a watch, or we do another episode.
I think we'll put it on another episode
later on because it's such a comparison from this one to the other one.
I think we'll put it on here.
Adam, first time viewing Conan the Barbarian.
I think I would love to give it a 9,
Wow.
Wow.
but I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Wow.
The only reason I'm docking it the 0.5 is because the graphics were a little rough for me.
Okay.
And I think that's mostly just because it's old.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I had watched this when it came out, I mean, not that I was alive then,
No.
but if I'd watched it when I was younger, or if I was alive around when it came out, I'm sure I would have just.
You would have had the T-shirt. You would have had like the record. You would have had like all of the merch because they sold a fuckload of stuff for this.
Sure.
The backpack, like this was a huge thing.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have been a lot more okay with the graphics, but because of time,
Yeah.
it's a bit more jarring to see weird, not rotoscoped. I forget how they did those ghosts. There's a technology they use for that. But it was just a bit too jarring for me, and some of the acting was a bit rough.
Yeah.
There's some ADR that I distinctly remember, which is when Conan falls in the first hole for the temple where he gets
Yeah.
the sword, and you hear him go, la, 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 you know, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, la, la, la. I went, oh God, that was rough. So it did, I have to dock it at 50%, but you know what? The movie had way better, amazing sets, beautiful sets,
Yeah.
beautiful
They built
props.
a lot.
They built a lot. Beautiful props. The armor was constantly changing. Their
Oh, yeah.
wardrobes
Yeah.
was great. And the story was deeper, and the villain was amazing. This movie was way better than I ever thought it could be. Like, a lot of people said it was a good movie. A good movie. This isn't a good movie. This is a fantastic, extremely good movie.
I think that's your takeaway, which is funny because so many people have seen it and they don't want to overhype it because like there's people who will watch this and this is like their Saturday afternoon. Like this is their Saturday afternoon movie. This
Sure.
is like, it's just on in the background. Like both of them on
Yeah.
repeat, like let's go kind of thing. So I'm happy you enjoyed it. So what I find with Raised by Spoilers is that when a movie comes out, you said 8.5?
I give it an 8.5.
We fall in this weird little camp where we either loved it and we completely skip the rating, or we forget about it and we're just like, fantastic, go watch this fucking movie right now. Or like it's a little too long but it's fantastic and we don't land on a score. I just wanted to land 8.5 from you two. Conan the Barbarian, this was a movie I received as like a birthday gift years ago as like this box set. And
From you?
no.
No.
I think my dad got it for me.
Okay.
It's wonderful. It is such an iconic film. It is such a piece of history within the fantasy genre of sword and sorcery. It is literally the pillar, if not the foundation of sword
At
and
least
sorcery.
the book for it.
Right. I don't know how many other fantasy movies, just like Star Wars, this came out and people were like, well, Dragon Slayer, Beastmaster, like, let's keep moving.
Yeah.
There is a plethora of 80s fantasy action movies with big dudes or chicks with bow and arrows like Lady Hawk that want to be Conan.
Yeah.
And they don't stick the landing because they're all trying to strive for Arnold or to try to get Arnold in their film. Right.
Yeah.
I want to give it a 9 as well. I really do. But you're right, because there is a couple of moments where there is stuff where it's like, this could have either got trimmed or we want a little bit more from this world. And that's not a, you know what? In a weird way, that's not a gripe. That's
No.
not a negative. Wanting more is because we liked the characters.
Yes.
And we're like, fuck, we want more of this. But that argument would be like, go read the books.
Yep.
Or go read the comic books, whether the Marvel ones or the Dark Horse comic books, because the Dark Horse ones are even better. It's a little bit more of an adult tone and a much more serious take on the character. I'm so jaded on giving it a 9. I want to give it a 9.
Give it a fucking 9.
I'm
You
not.
give
I
it that
can't,
9.
You guys are right. It's a solid 8.5.
So,
Like it's a solid 8.5, but we all want to unanimously give it a 9, but it's a solid 8.5.
If this was an 80, if this was the 80s, it would have been a 9.
It would have been a 9.
But
Yeah.
because I'm reviewing it as of today's
As
standards,
a film, right.
I view it as an 8.5.
Yeah.
so I think this is our highest rated movie.
Overall, I think so.
No, overall, I think we fall into a couple categories. You and I really love you guys love Pathfinder. I had problems with it.
No, I did.
Brotherhood of the
I thought
Wolf-
Pathfinder was meh.
Really?
No, I think the other one I would have
The
rated
first time we've done 8.5s across the board.
Dark City. I think Dark City
Dark
was probably
City
our
was
last
either
one.
an
Oh, that might
8.5
have
or
been,
a
yeah.
9, and then I think Brotherhood of the Wolf. I like I said, there's movies where we land on them and we don't actually get a rating.
Yeah.
we just go phenomenal. That was
Yeah.
great. A little long or this and this and that. Like there's
Okay.
little tweaks and gripes or critiques, but there's never actually we don't actually settle on
That's true.
an agreed number. So because of the majority of the room is 8.5, I will give it an 8.5. Conan the Barbarian lands.
One of us.
Well, no, but that's normally how it goes, right? If you guys are settling on the thing, like if you vote 7 and we both say it's 8, then it's an 8.
No, I say 8.5.
Yeah.
That's fine. No, I'm just saying as a majority
Yeah,
rating
yeah, yeah.
review for it. That way it's not like Amanda gave it a 7, but Adam didn't like it, so he gave it a. It's like Raised by Spoilers lands its 2 feet and plants its sword in the earth and yells to Crom in the heavens or earth under the dying giants and the boiling blood oceans. Chaos magic is out there. Conan the Barbarian of 1982 lands itself on a solid 8.5. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sitting on. Amanda, Adam, thanks for joining me. We are Raised by Spoilers. You can find us on the podcasts all over. We have a YouTube channel. We're live on the internet in color, unless Adam's not doing that. We're just doing black and white.
We're doing black and white, but like I said, I go and I actually do kind of like what they do with Wizard of Oz, where I draw on the color.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Scene by scene, frame by frame.
We are RBS Pod on the YouTubes if you want to try to find us. Share, like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, hit the notification button if you want. Giving us 5 stars obviously helps us out on iTunes. It lets us make a better show. A rating and review pushes out the show itself to a bigger audience and allows us to grow. But what I'll throw before I say goodnight, Amanda, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Nintendo_geek.
Beautiful. Adam, where do you got anything going on?
You can find me at Ronin Geekery.
Beautiful. And I am Geek Movie House. Remember to check your bookcases. Matthew McConaughey could be trapped behind there. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Crom!